The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show, a Taco Tuesday RNC MKE 2024 edition. Welcome to it, my little buddy.
Crute, good to be with you here at Kampali on Brady Street. I was told there'd be tacos and tequila, and you can come down and join us as well, about a mile away from the forum where the RNC is going on right now.
East Brady Street, Kampali Taqueria, and it is official, Dom. It's on the sign. Taco Tuesday, baby. They got buckets of beer. They got margarita pitchers. And most importantly, they got us doing a live show right here. And, Dom, this will be an exciting show. More exciting than perhaps that snooze fest of an RNC last night.
Is that the $1 million question? Did Donald Trump fall asleep at his own party? It sure looked like it, man. It sure looked like it.
We'll keep you awake, Trump. Just tune in to the greatest radio show ever.
My old man used to say, hang around. Guy would fall asleep anywhere,
Yeah.
I think he'd do the snoring, sitting up snoring. But we'd go, God, just wake himself up. Pa, just go to bed. No, I'm fine. I'm just resting my eyes. So Trump was just resting his eyes last night.
Maybe he was just resting his ears.
Resting his ears.
The bandage, that was the other big question.
Right. How would he?
Would he come with a little modest bandage or, a big gauzy gauze? And I think we now know the answer. Gauzy gauze.
Has there been any reporting of what the actual injury is? Did he receive stitches? Was there plastic surgery? We don't really know much, do we? I mean, there's been zero reporting, and I'm on all the news all the time, and I've seen zero reporting on the medical status of the former president.
That ear could be gangrenous by now.
Just saying, man. Seems a little strange.
Now, the Band-Aid, the bandage.
The bandage, yes.
Did it seem a little, let's just say, superfluous? A little much?
Again, hard to judge. Don't know the extent of the injury. I am not a medical doctor. But I play one on the radio.
I was going to say, we called you Dr. Feelgood in college. Hopefully you'll all be feeling good with a couple of tacos in your belly and some tequila to chase it. Come join us. This is a bipartisan party open to the public, and we're going to be joined by some good friends soon, Dom. Starting with Earl Ingram Jr. You know him from the morning show, WAUK 540 AM on Civic Media. He's joining us, and then on to bigger and better things. Apparently a rendezvous with CNN at the RNC a little bit later for our pal Earl.
Oh, excellent.
We've got CNN's coverage somewhere on in here, so we'll keep an eye out for Earl hitting the screen right now. It's Jake Tapper and Eric Trump, the most important interview of Tapper's career, I suspect.
And I did confirm Eric Trump yesterday when he was on the floor giving the delegates.
I thought for this fine show.
Yesterday, he did say, on behalf of my family, So it was very self-aggrandizing.
I nominate you, Dad.
As you can possibly imagine with the Trump family. And I did see a headline that Donnie Jr.
Please love me, Dad.
Donnie Jr. wants to have, HR decision-making in the next Trump administration because, that's normal.
Doesn't the firstborn son of the king get to choose the court down?
Oh, man, that's a very bad idea.
Also, some strange and tragic news out of Milwaukee at this hour, Dom. Someone's been shot and killed outside the big party in downtown at the RNC What are the details we can share with the audience?
The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel is reporting that a Columbus, Ohio police officer shot and killed an individual on Tuesday afternoon near the RNC in downtown Milwaukee. Brian Steele, the president of the Fraternal Order of Police Capital City Lodge Number 9, confirmed that Columbus police were involved in the shooting in Milwaukee. It occurred near North 14th and Vliet Streets, just under a mile from the security perimeter for the RNC, according to law enforcement sources. The Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office said an adult male was killed. The man who was killed, according to the Journal-Sentinel, was well known in the neighborhood. Several witnesses told the Journal-Sentinel.
So, what does that mean? Well known in the neighborhood?
I don't know. Milwaukee County DA Chisholm is on the scene. Representatives from the Milwaukee Police and federal authorities did not immediately respond to questions.
Now, yesterday I was in the green zone for quite a period of time, matter of hours, and then I also walked around the external part of the perimeter, mostly trying to get back to my car. And I can tell you, I did see lots of Milwaukee police. I did also see bike patrols manned by Madison area police officers. But then I saw officers from all around the country. Cary, North Carolina, were prominently at the exit that I was trying to get out of. You know, it's not easy to get in or out.
No.
So, more sad news.
Yeah, very
tragic
unfortunate.
news. Someone
Very
has been
unfortunate.
shot outside the RNC, apparently outside the green zone. And other sort of troubling headlines, Dom. Apparently, it's being reported the Iranians were plotting to assassinate Donald Trump. Like, we need more pile on this headline. So that is being reported in the world out there, and apparently the Secret Service taking additional precautions.
Well, yes, this was apparently a plot that was known to the Secret Service prior to this actual assassination attempt. So presumably the Secret Service was already ramped up when this most recent unfortunate occurrence happened. So lots of more questions to the Secret Service as to what, why, when, who, like, So, well, that will be forthcoming. More committees, hearings, I believe, in Congress are being planned. So that continues.
Lots of headlines. Obviously, it's a busy week in Milwaukee. The world's turned its attention to the city on the freshwater coast.
Well, I got to tell
Cream
you.
City, Brew City.
I got to tell you, I drive around the city every single day. Go front and back, north to south. I mean, I'm in the city a lot. Traffic, not bad. I mean, if you're outside of the immediate downtown vicinity, from the river to the
people are staying away effectively.
People are totally away, man. I've seen videos of the Third Ward, usually hopping, bumping. I can't find parking down there. It's one of the things. Parking available mid-afternoon yesterday. Also, hearing some other folks, the 3rd Street Market downtown, not very busy at all. So there's some concern from some of the local businesses that their initial fears of promises being made and not being kept might be coming to fruition. Again, a little cooler today. Yesterday was more of a bigger deal. They stayed around to see Trump fall asleep. He showed up with a bandage on the ear and nodded off at his own party. Perhaps that kept some people away with the heat. Maybe tonight will be different. But certainly the businesses around here in Milwaukee are hoping for a little bit more.
Well, people also came for the political speeches, Dom. Although a promise toned down in the rhetoric from everyone except perhaps U.S. Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin.
It continues to embarrass us on the national hell, the world stage.
He's making excuses. What excuses did Ron make for that terrible speech he gave last night, Don?
Ron Burgundy or Ron Johnson? Because that totally pulled an anchor, man. He said, the wrong speech was loaded onto the teleprompter? What? And then the Speaker Johnson, he was ready to introduce some attorney general, and his teleprompter went off. He scooted off the stage. So
Ron Johnson just gave somebody else's speech?
And apparently in this new era of toning it down, referred to Democrats as a clear and present danger. How offensive can that possibly be? Blamed it on, that was the old speech. I was supposed to give the new United speech, but that didn't get loaded up. What, you can't do it off the cuff, man? You can't say people tone it down? You can't say we got to unite? You can't say those things unless it's written in front of you, Ron Johnson? Same thing to speak. You're the Speaker of the House. You're number 2 in line for the presidency. You're tech goes down, and now you no longer have anything to say on the topic, on any topic. I mean, the band last night, man.
The band, time for the band to kick in.
Oh my God!
Anytime something went wrong, let's just play some tunes.
Oh man, and I got to tell you, I am a fan of classic rock.
I think they made it through like 2 different albums, didn't they? Freedom Rock 1 and 2.
They did the 9-minute version of Freebird, man. I mean, it was a little bit much. So the lack of talent was seemingly evident. If you don't have a teleprompter, apparently you're like Ron Burgundy. Go F yourself, Milwaukee.
It is a horrible city, according to, the top of the ticket. We'll play you the sound of Ron's speech, the entirety of the speech, apparently 3.5 minutes-ish. We'll maybe have time for all of it. We'll get to it, but whenever Ron Johnson makes it into the Raw story, one of my favorite aggregators, we're going to share it from the top with you, our fair audience. Senator Ron Johnson proclaimed at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee yesterday the Democrats are a clear and present danger to the country. An odd departure from the GOP's own message following former President Donald Trump's near assassination on Saturday, demanding that Democrats stop calling Trump a danger to the country. Johnson apparently realized the hypocrisy was a bit too much to ignore because he had an explanation when PBS NewsHours asked him about it. It was the teleprompter's fault. I asked Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson about him calling Democratic policies a clear and present danger to the country while calling for unity. He says the speech he delivered at the RNC was not the one he intended to give, that the prompter loaded an old version. New one called for unity. So, it wasn't on the prompter, Dom.
Stay classy, Milwaukee. I'm Ron Johnson.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, broadcasted on Brady Street, just like it used to be. You can come down and join us. Nobody parties like the Devil's Advocates party. The occasion, RNC MKE 2024. But more importantly, it's Taco Tuesday. We got tacos. We got tequila. We got the Devil's Advocates broadcasting live from Campale Taqueria, East Brady Street, Milwaukee. Come on down, party with us. The bar is open.
You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX, Madison's home for Matnair on Air.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite Slimming Black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too. Wisconsin summers are too short, so this year we decided to make the most of it. Crute called Go Landscaping, and Cody and his team will take it from here. Go Landscaping can bring your jungle under control or create the lasting outdoor living space you've always dreamed about. Specializing in stone and paver construction, Go Landscaping are the landscaping pros you need. Do what Crute did. Call Cody at Go Landscaping today to get started. 608-807-9245.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather, new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends. Uline works hard keeping 41,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
Charged, never convicted. The Devil's Advocates.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. You can join us 844-967-2789 or just come down to East Brady Street, Kampali. The kitchen is open. The bar is open. The Devils are here for the RNC. Come and join us.
And it's beautiful. I mean, this compared to yesterday. Yesterday, I was sweating my you-know-what's off. Today is glorious, Dom. 80, sunny. I don't see barely a cloud in the sky.
It's summertime in Milwaukee, man. There's no place finer.
It is a beautiful city, and Brady Street, the smell of freedom, always wafting down the street.
Indeed.
Very, very envious of the locals at this moment. But anyways, I'll join them at some point. I feel quite confident. You can join us, be a part of the party and the show, 844-967-2789, hoping that Earl Ingram can work his way through the snarled Milwaukee traffic. But Earl goes back roads. Come directly off the interstate, come straight down to Brady Street. It's not even a problem. I didn't even have to wait on like one light.
No, man. A lot of the locals the traffic is way down from normal. That's for certain.
So you can find parking. You can find a place down here. Make your way down here, and I'm kind of talking to you at this point, Earl. He's offering to call in. He's like, I'm caught. There's an accident. And I'm thinking, I wonder if it's the shooting, but why would Earl backtrack to the RNC area before he came down to Brady Street? Hopefully that's not his chosen route. But sadly, an officer-involved shooting in Milwaukee outside the perimeter of the RNC today. And that is being reported by the Journal-Sentinel. We shared it with you. Also, strange headline. The Iranians plotting an assassination attempt against Donald Trump. I don't know what that headline means, but the Secret Service, apparently they were on high alert.
Is that what that was?
Well, were they? Weren't they? They apparently on high alert when this character got through and took shots at former President Trump. So anyways, Trump came out with a big old Band-Aid on his ear and then took a little snooze in the bowl.
He rested his eyes, man.
Maybe it was warm enough for him. You know, the courthouse. He also doesn't like a cold courthouse, apparently, Dom.
It's like his porridge has just got to be just right. I mean, come on. If Joe Biden shows up at the DNC and starts dozing off, everyone will be all over his ass. I mean, Republicans, this is your guy. I mean, this is his moment. He came into such glory and love and adoration at the RNC, and he takes all that energy and proceeds to nod off.
Oh, I'm just resting my eyes.
Resting my eyes. Son.
Dom, another story I found at the... Another fine story over at the Rustery. Don't. We don't want to put our audience to sleep. You're thinking of a Ron Johnson speech. Oh, wait. Before we turn our attention, let's play the sound of Rojo, the entirety of the speech. About, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 cuts of Rojo. Eat your broccoli, people. The U.S. Senator from the great state of Wisconsin. This was apparently the wrong speech in the teleprompter, says Ron, after he gave it. Cut 1.
Back in 2008, Joe Biden ran out a ticket promising to, quote, fundamentally transform America, unquote.
America?
They weren't joking. That was the Democrats' new radical far-left agenda. Today's Democrat Party is not the party of our parents and grandparents. That party cared about workers and people struggling to get by. Now they are the party of open borders, reckless spending, weaponized government, and weakness on the world stage. This fringe agenda includes biological males competing against girls.
What?
Oh, they don't like
and the sexualization and indoctrination of our children.
Yeah, there's Ron.
Really, is that part of the Democratic platform? The sexualization and indoctrination of your children? I didn't see it on the platform.
Ron Johnson continuing to represent the great state of Wisconsin. And here, cut number 2, if you would please, Rich, his effort towards unity, or as he put it, the wrong speech loaded into the teleprompter?
Today's Democrat agenda, their policies, are a clear and present danger to America, to our institutions, our values, and our people. Democrats have forgotten American families. They have abandoned the hardworking middle class. But with President Trump and Republicans, those forgotten Americans are forgotten no more.
I love it when I hear the megas talk to us about the value and importance of our institutions. Our institutions, which they would knock down one by one if they have
Creative destruction.
Mitt Romney.
I've heard those words come out of Ron's mouth as well. One more from Ron Johnson, U.S. Senator from Wisconsin, claims this speech, wrong speech on the teleprompter, you be the judge. Play for the people, Rich.
Republicans are the party of opportunity, liberty, and prosperity for all. We proved we know how to make life better for all Americans, and we can do it again. With a secure border, smaller government, less regulation, and lower taxes. Republicans understand that Americans don't want welfare, they want work. They don't want woke equity, they want God-given equality.
Oh, he threw a God in there.
Yes. Well, always gets a
They
clap.
want the promise of our founding documents, the right to pursue happiness. That's what Republicans will deliver.
Republicans?
We've repaired the damage caused by Democrats before, and we will do it again.
When has a Republican ever cleaned up a Democratic
We will
mess?
complete the mission President Trump first articulated in 2016.
He hated
Make
Trump back
America great again. Thank you, and God bless you.
I mean, back then, and we used to interview Ron with some frequency, 25 times, I think, over the course of years. And Ron didn't like.
Wasn't a fan.
Was not a fan. Gave us his tickets to the inauguration. He did squire us around his senatorial office. Thought he was kind of a big shot that day, didn't he, Dom? Your buddy, Ron Johnson.
Our former buddy. Now uniting the country by calling the Democrats' policies and agenda the clear and present danger.
You know, we're expecting Earl Ingram. If he can get here, great. If he can't, you better call 844-967-2789. You can all call and be a part of the Party at Kimpali in Milwaukee. Join us.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Radio WMDX, Madison's home for Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Imagine being able to detect what insects feeding on your plants simply by listening to them eat. I'm Pam Yankee with a quick update on what's happening in food and farming news on a Tuesday. That's right. That technology is now available thanks to a UW entomology professor. Dr. Emily Bick and her team have invented the insect eavesdropper. It's a tool that's designed to make pest management a whole lot easier in agriculture.
It's basically a guitar mic that we clip onto a plant which had an insect feeding on it. We thought of the idea through a trip actually to a sugarcane plantation in Indonesia. I was working with all of these population models trying to predict when pests show up just based off of the temperature. And the farmers I was working with out there said, we don't care when the adults show up. We really want to know, are the larvae in the stalk? In the state of Wisconsin, this is kind of like a stem borer in soybeans or European corn borer. And we thought we can actually use the plant stem as a way to amplify the sound and actually hear or eavesdrop on insects as they're directly feeding on the crops.
UW entomologist, that is Dr. Emily Bick, talking about her insect eavesdropper. She said basically it is a guitar mic that's clipped to the plant, coupled with a mini computer that starts, stops, and saves the recording of insects chomping on the leaves, sucking on the plant, or boring into the tissue. They say that they have got a 95% accuracy rate with this particular technology. Insect eavesdropper.
Get more value out of your farm's high tunnels. Join the Oats Workshop, Sustainable High Tunnel Management, on August 1st in Oak Creek. Learn from farmers and ag professionals about controlling temperature, managing soil fertility, and pests. Tour the high tunnels at Village Farmstead, a USDA organic produce farm, and see demonstrations of tools and techniques used to manage permanent raised beds. Visit organicagronomy.org to register and secure your spot today. Oats science-based organic training for agricultural advisors.
You're invited to Close Farms and Country Fest in Chippewa County for this year's Farm Technology Days, growing to the tune of success. This year's event features the chance to explore cutting-edge equipment, innovative techniques, and taking a glimpse into the future of agriculture. There's also food trucks, music, and of course, field demos of all kinds. Mark your calendars for August 13th through the 15th and bring the whole family to this year's event. For more information and show details, visit wifarmtechdays.org.
And Wisconsin's farmer confidence levels continue to go down on their corn and soybean crop. The latest update shows Wisconsin farmers say 58% of their corn is good to excellent, down 4 percentage points. Soybeans, 56% good to excellent, also down 4 percentage points in confidence in 1 week. I'm Pam Yankee.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Mostly sunny and becoming quite comfortable today, with high temperatures flirting with 80 degrees. There's only a small chance of a few spotty showers or storms this afternoon, and after that, we stay dry the rest of the week and sun-splashed. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot, currently 82 degrees.
This is Chad Spate for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and remodeling professionals in our industry. Are you honest and hardworking? Do you love to improve people's lives by improving their homes? Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, we are live from day 3 of the RNC. The fabulous farm babe Pam Yankee will join us, and public service announcement with Dr.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Taco Tuesday edition of the Devil's Advocates radio show, partying at Kampali Taqueria right here on East Brady Street, about 1 mile from the RNC MKE 2024. Some sad news, a homeless man has been shot by, apparently, Columbus, Ohio police. That has been reported. Unfortunate situation. Also, our friend Earl Ingram is apparently caught up in the backwash of some accident traffic here in Milwaukee. The traffic's not bad over on Brady Street, but apparently Earl's struggling to get to us. So we're going to take him live via phone right now. Our pal Earl Ingram, host of the Earl Ingram Show. Earl, welcome back, man. How you been?
Hey, Earl.
Hey, I'm doing fine, man. I'm in a parking lot right now. You know, it's a pretty bad accident, and just not moving.
You know,
and so, Oh, go ahead, Crute.
Well, I was just going to say I saw a bad accident off of Water Street yesterday, and it was really just in part because of the changed traffic flow. People are not used to going and being rerouted in different directions, and some apparently lose their patience, Earl.
Well, you know what they did in Milwaukee is they used to be streets that had 2 lanes. But because of the crazy driving, they took major streets down to 1 lane. And they put these islands out. And there's some people who don't understand that, and they, still get over in that lane where the island is. And then when they come up to the island, they want to force their way in, and that creates all of this foolishness. But I heard you talk about the police shooting the guy over at King Park. Do you know about that?
We've only seen reporting, actually, I believe at the Journal-Sentinel, our understanding it was a homeless man, Earl, and it was Columbus, Ohio police that shot the man, but more details than that we do not have it.
Yeah, Earl, the Journal-Sentinel says he was well known in the neighborhood. He lived in one of the tent encampments, was known by the name Jehovah, who had a dog named Isis.
23-year-old guy, homeless. They live in a homeless camp. They're in tents. And he and another guy, I'm sure, they have something to drink. And so he and another guy, I guess, were getting ready to, fight, or looks like it. And the guy pulled a knife. And according to witnesses, the Ohio police, Columbus police, more than one opened fire and took his life. That's bad enough. But then you've got well over 200 police officers on that park because they've got all these police in the city with nothing to do.
Right.
Earl, I heard on your show, I heard you discussing the inconvenience to the citizens of Milwaukee and the fact that really people from your neighborhood were not taken into consideration when the RNC booked this party here.
No, absolutely not, Crute. It's the fact that the people who live in the city, I was talking to a guy, actually, I was talking to a guy who works at the hospital, and he said it's 3 hours for him to try to get to St. Luke's Hospital. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things going on that just don't make sense. I get it. I understand what they're trying to do, and I understand that this is a big deal. But for heaven's sakes, to inconvenience so many people, because of this, I just don't think is right.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a fine friend and guest live via phone. He is Earl Ingram, stuck in the Milwaukee traffic, in part created by the RNC in an accident, apparently. Earl, I've driven through the north side of last couple of days, making my way over to Brady Street, and I happened to pass MLK and the WIS GOP's community center. And Earl, yesterday that place looked dead as a doornail, and today it's shocking. With some news coverage, suddenly it's being manned today. The doors were open. Earl, what can you tell us about the WIS GOP's outreach to communities of color in Milwaukee?
So I was there today, invited by a guy named Gerard Randall, who really is one of the main reasons why the convention is here. He's an operative for the Republican Party nationally. And so Scott Walker, a Scott Walker guy Scott Walker pointed to a lot of great things when Scott Walker was here. But what Gerard and what was happening over there today was Tim Scott was there.
Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina.
Yes, sir. He was there. And they were talking about the money that they want to invest in the black community in Milwaukee, and so that was what that was about. And every television news station was there, every radio station. They certainly can get coverage because they were all there crammed in this little building. It was an amazing sight.
Earl, Do you think it's effective? Do you think the black community of Milwaukee feels like suddenly they've been embraced by this kinder, gentler Republican Party, the party of Tim Scott, if you will, or do you think they maybe think it's an act just because the RNC is in town?
Well, so I'll say to you, Dom, and the listening audience, you know, I've said this to the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, my parents are gone, and my grandparents are gone, and they used to always vote, and they always voted Democrat because of the civil rights struggle and the civil rights bills that were passed. So they always voted Democrat. Younger blacks today aren't that. And so if you dangle a silver coin in front of some of them, you may wind up, you know, drawing them in. But I will say to all of you, don't be fooled. It's not a major number of people of color who are going to move over to the Republican Party. We're not, you know, we're not that nuts.
But Earl, do we have to worry that African Americans are going to stay home and not vote for the Democratic ticket, be it Biden or anybody else?
You clearly have to worry about that. But I will say to you, the Democratic Party and Biden-Harris have been working diligently to try to avoid what happened with Mandela Barnes, and so they're not foolish, and they've been out and they're doing what they did when Barack Obama first ran, and they're investing a lot of money to get the vote out in the city of Milwaukee. So I'm not worried that they're not making the effort. The effort is going to be there.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Earl Ingram, our friend and co-host, a host of his own show here on the Civic Media Network. Earl, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure, man. The RNC speeches last night, you brought up Senator Tim Scott. He said during his speech last night that America is not a racist country. Another rep, John James, if you don't vote for Donald Trump, you ain't black. This is some of the commentary coming out of the RNC last night, Earl. Just wanted to get your sense on some of those comments.
Well, you know, there's some folk who are willing to sell their souls, you know, for, you know, a piece of silver, 30 pieces of silver. And so what I would say to you guys is don't think that they're the rule. They are the exception. You know, Tim Scott and the other guy and those others, you can count them on one hand. If you're talking about blacks, the 12 million blacks that are in this country, you're not talking about an overwhelming number. And I know it doesn't take an overwhelming number, but, you know, the fear is, again, not those who are buying into the Republican rhetoric. It's the fact of trying to get young people out to vote. And I'll tell you guys, the fear is, how many years ago was Obama the president? 8, 12? However long ago, in 2012, everybody mobilized. They got people in the black community out to vote who had never voted before, the Democratic Party, everywhere. And so people got out and they voted, and they were told, if you vote for Obama, your life is going to change. Well, guess what, guys? Their lives didn't change. So many of them now say, well, you know, you told us our lives was going to change under Obama. It didn't change. So now you want me to vote again. You know, my focus is, when I talk to them, I tell them, if you don't vote for some, it's for absolute certain that your life is going to get worse. So that's what's at the root of it, guys. They don't believe that politics is going to make a difference in their lives.
The politics, as you like to say, Earl.
Yeah.
What about the other side? Do you also think then there's also, and not just within the black community, but just with the citizenry in general, the less engaged, let's call them, that if this president got in, and my life really didn't change much, and that president got in, if Trump gets in again, my life really won't change that much. Do you think there's a level, that kind of level of disengagement that's consistent through specifically the younger demographic, Earl?
Well, there clearly is, because, I'm pretty sure you and Crute were involved in politics, even as young guys, like I was as a young person, but that was the exception, not the rule. And when you're young and, in your 20s, and you're trying to find yourself, man, you're not wasting time worrying about who's going to be the president of the United States. You're not worried about Donald Trump. You're not worried about Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You got your whole life ahead of you. So here we are, some old guys, who, should I speak for myself?
Some older than others, Earl.
You and Dom are old guys.
and so they don't see it. They don't understand it. But soon they will.
Earl, there?
That's tragic.
Is there any street cred extended to Donald Trump? I mean, he was claiming first he's going to roll out some gold sneakers, and somehow that's going to make him palatable to black voters. And then it was the felonious mugshot. And, now with an assassination attempt, I mean, I see 50 Cent at his concert the other day put up Trump's picture over his album cover, Get Rich or Die Trying. Any street cred earned from the assassination attempt?
Well, 50 Cent. Come on, man. Come on, man. 50 Cent. Okay, so 50 Cent is a multi-millionaire, probably worth 80, 90, $100 million. So, yeah, retired, reform, gangster, who was able to, only in America and Don King turn his life around. So makes all this money. So if they're talking about tax cuts, he's down with that. He agrees with all those things. But that's 50 Cent. The average person doesn't give a rip about Donald Trump, person of color. They're not thinking about any of this. All of that ridiculousness about, it's mugshot, and as condescending as that is, the people who he's talking about didn't even see that. They don't even know anything about that. They're not concerned with that. They're concerned with making it through another day. So, not to worry about that kind of foolishness.
Earl Ingram, we know you're appearing on CNN a little bit later this evening. Where can people tune in? What time and who's interviewing you, Earl?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm getting ready to head down there. And, I don't know. I was down there the other day, and it's a zoo, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah, it is.
You guys are used to being around MAGAs, but when there's as many MAGAs as I was around yesterday. Hey, there's something about MAGAs, man.
Here's the problem, Earl. They're not serving tequila and tacos like we are. You should have come to this party. You picked the wrong party, Earl. Good luck on CNN, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Earl. Good luck, man. See ya.
More Devils from Capali's, Taqueria, East Brady Street, RNC MKE 2024. That's Earl's problem. Come party with us.
Madison's home for the John and Gordy Show.
It is one of the most important business decisions you will make, selling your commercial building. It should involve making a plan to maximize your sale price through effective and responsive marketing. Your plan should also include a clear understanding of tax consequences. You need the professionals at Altus Commercial Real Estate to guide your success. Experience and responsive professionals make all the difference. Make your plan to sell. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate today at 608-338-1101. Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
Looking for a roundup of the day's important headlines in quick podcast form? Search no more. Find it now on the WMDX website at mad.radio. Your news just for the Madison area. I'm Terry Bell with WMDX News.
Listen to the John and Gordy Show weekdays right here on Mad Radio, sponsored by Verlo Mattress of Madison. Sleep better, dream bigger on a handcrafted, locally made mattress. Find them on Madison's east and west sides or online at verlo.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines always open for our fair audience. Join us, talk or text 844-967-2789.
Well, Rojo had the speechifying last night at the RNC. Apparently, bad teleprompter.
Yeah, the teleprompter said words that I really didn't want to say. Clear and present danger, Democrats. But I said it anyway because I read off a teleprompter and I have no thoughts on my own without words in front of me, Ron Burgundy style.
That is precisely his excuse. I am Ron Burgundy. If you put it in front of me, I'm going to say the words. And by the way, thank you to our good pal, Earl Ingram. Don't forget to tune in for his fine program. That rolls out. And I'm sorry, man, there's a giant iguana being crossing the road. I don't see it every day.
This is Brady Street, man. It's one of the locals, man.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Earl Ingram's fine program, 8 to 10 a.m. on WAUK, 540 a.m. The Beast of the East, all across eastern Wisconsin. Tune in for Earl. And tune in tonight if you want to see some Wisconsin-centric speeches at the RNC. Not just Rojo, baby. We've also got Reince Priebus. He is slated to speak just before 6 p.m. tonight. We might get the right speech during the big show tonight, Dom.
We might be able to bring that to you if they stay on time, stay on target at the RNC. We may be able to present some of that Reince Priebus speech. I'm sure it will be riveting.
And
wait, there's more?
Eric Hudby, mustachioed, porn-stachioed candidate for the U.S. Senate, Dom. Apparently, the California man got a flight into Milwaukee for the RNC, and he's going to give a speech on the stage about 6:30 tonight. As the local paper points out, Dom, he's currently trailing Tammy Baldwin in all the polling, including the Marquette University Law School poll. Currently, Hudby trails Tammy about 52 to 47% in the MU poll. So tonight is his big night. And, Dom, other than Reince Priebus and Carrie Lake, we had some sound from her. I saw her on Charlie Kirk's Big Turning Point USA.
Where were you?
Podcast recording yesterday. We brought you some of that sound. Eric Hudby has mentioned, so Carrie Lake's going to warm him up. These are wannabe senatorial candidates. And then former Michigan Rep Mike Rogers, he's running for Senate in Michigan, if you didn't know, folks. And then there are some really big names later in the evening. Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, I got a friend, and her name is Grace, and Grace loves her some Vivek Ramaswamy.
Why?
That's like her flavor of coffee.
Really? Okay.
She says it's his voice. He's got the voice. Apparently, he's angling tonight during his speech, I suspect, for like a cabinet position, something of that sort in a Trump presidency. We see some of the more prominent Republican Congress people have speeches tonight. Elise Stefanik, Tom Emmer, Steve Scalise, and, of course, Speaker Mike Johnson. He's got a big speech tonight.
Well, I hope his teleprompter doesn't go out and leaves the stage and scurries away like a cockroach again. And may I just say, when I was watching some of the RNC last night, they were playing the song "Proud to Be,"
where at least Lee Greenwood.
Yeah,
were they selling Bibles?
I didn't see it, but they had the camera shot was on the entire Trump family. And you could see the speaker, and they're like pretending to sing the words.
Watermelon, celery.
Come on. I mean, you could just enjoy the music and not pretend like you know the words. I mean, even if you got the chorus
you could just rock back and forth, or you could stand there like Joe Biden at a Juneteenth celebration. Any of those would have been acceptable.
Ted
the
Cruz,
big time, 8 to 8:30. Ted Cruz.
Yeah. And
Nikki Haley.
Don't forget Randy Sutton. He's an everyday American.
Well, I don't know who the hell Randy Sutton is.
There's lots of everyday Americans.
Ted Cruz.
Not an everyday American?
Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis all jammed together. These are all wannabe Republican presidential candidates, right? And then you got yourself some Eric Schmidt. He's a senator from Missouri. And Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton's gone a little off the reservation lately. Or am I'm confusing him with the other Missouri senator?
Fist in the air, run away from my constituents guy.
Join me in my white Christian
nationalism
guy.
my
Holly.
Christian nationalism.
For Josh Hawley.
It's understandable.
And late in the evening, and this could be a concern, you've got Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders has a primetime speech apparently tonight. And Dr. Ben Carson.
Stabby McStabberson?
Well, he's also kind of got that sleepy quality to him. He will not have his eyes open on the stage. And then wrapping up the big cavalcade of MAGA-loving loyalists and stars, Dom, you've got didn't make the vice presidential Marco Rubio, little Marco. Little Marco, I haven't seen his hands, very small. And Eric's wife, Laura Trump, the co-chair of the Republican National Committee, she came over to glom onto her husband I nominate you, Dad, on behalf of the family and the entire state of Florida. I give you all the votes for Florida, Dad. I did it for you, Dad.
What a party. And also, as we looked at some of the news here, some of the restaurants around the forum, apparently getting mixed results. As mentioned, some video going around, some my own anecdotal experience driving around the city. Depending on where you're at, where I'm coming from and where I'm going, it's been very, very easy to get around. You can get parking spots. You can get into all the restaurants. So, folks, go out and support your favorite restaurant. They're going to need it because those megas, at least as of last night, weren't coming away too far away from the forum.
You know who needs it? We need it. Come on down to the Campali on East
baby,
Brady Street.
Do it right now.
It's Taco Tuesday and tequila. And we got our friend Maggie Dawn joining us in the Happier Happy Hour. And you could be part of this big program. We're going to lay out a lot of big headlines. Apparently, the Iranians also wanted a piece of Trump's ass. They had their own assassination plot. That was disclosed today. We've got some speechifying, some mistakes made. Apparently, whoever was operating Rojo's teleprompter did.
Tuesday night, Nightlight will stream live on Facebook, X, and YouTube from 7 to 8 p.m. during the RNC. We'll be back in the air live from 8 to 9 p.m., where I welcome host of American Ninja Warrior, Matt Eisman.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, weeknights 7 till 9.
You know Ignite Glass and Gifts 3 locations in Madison, but you can also shop IgniteGlassandGifts.com. You'll find grinders, lighters, collectibles, hand-blown glass water pipes, artistically designed jewelry, and plenty of other items delivered straight to your door or to family and friends. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts. Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Plus IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In a few hours, day 2 of the Republican National Convention gets underway in Milwaukee. Last night, former President Trump announcing Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate, his first appearance since the assassination attempt.
GOP delegates were electrified by their first glimpse of the former president, who pumped his fist into the air as he walked into the hall, a bandage covering his right ear. Missouri Party Chair Nick Myers.
I feel like the hand of Providence must be on President Trump.
Tonight's convention program theme, Making America Safe Once Again, with a focus on illegal immigration, violent crime, and deaths from drug overdoses. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Milwaukee.
President Biden is on the campaign trail today. He's in Las Vegas. It comes as a draft letter is circulating, calling for the Democratic National Convention to delay the early virtual roll call on President Biden's official nomination. And much of the country remains locked in a heat wave. Along the East Coast, volatile storms could also be in the mix. This is ABC News.
This news report is sponsored by Wisconsin Capital Management, LLC. Serving their clients for 40 years. Visit wiscap.com.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. 2 failed recall attempts are proving lucrative for Wisconsin Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, who was allowed to collect unlimited money during that time. Wisp Politics reports he pocketed nearly $640,000. Most of it, a cool $500,000, came from Republican donor Elizabeth Uline. The RNC was promised to be a boon to restaurants, stores, and other establishments in downtown Milwaukee, but Monday, many businesses say it was pretty slow.
We were kind of, tied up having to be at the convention hall, and so we're looking forward to some more flexibility in the next few days to go out and just be part of the community and get out to different places we couldn't yesterday.
Wisconsin delegate Stephanie Susick says they had to stick to a tight schedule. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. Some Madison families are pushing the school district to install fences at elementary schools. Neurodivergent kids, especially ones with autism, can be prone to elopement or running away. One mom told the Cap Times her son has run away from school nearly 30 times. A district spokesperson says fences are tough on school grounds, especially when so many of them are surrounded by green space parks and multiple play areas. And a fire has hit a beloved bizarre attraction. Firefighters were called to House on the Rock near Spring Green last week. It was in the circus room, one of the grandest displays in the collection. Staff say there was damage to a few items, but they weren't historic items. House on the Rock is home to the largest rotating carousel in the world in that same circus room. The carousel was unharmed. And House on the Rock didn't have to close. They stayed open the whole time through that fire. Staff don't know yet how long repairs will take. And that's what you need to know on this Tuesday. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. This is WMDX News.
The Bucks looking for a win. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks looking for their first win tonight in Summer League action in Las Vegas. So far, they've lost to the Bulls. And then the Cavaliers on Sunday. Tonight, they face the LA Clippers. The Bucks 6'11" rookie Tyler Smith.
I don't just set screens, roll, and shoot the ball. I mean, if that's what you need me to do to pay me for it, I can make a lot of shots. But I mean, I can also take people off the dribble, beat bigs on the floor, and also play stretch 5.
Baseball, the All-Star game is tonight. Be on the lookout for Christian Yelich and William Contreras to start and play in the first few innings. Golf, the State Amateur Golf Championship underway at the Legend at Merrill Hills. Ty Kretz atop the leaderboard at 5 under. Tony Romo flew into Waukesha after competing over the weekend in Lake Tahoe with Aaron Rodgers and A.J. Hawk. Romo says he's grateful to be invited back to the Wisconsin State Tournament.
The people here are so generous and nice and allow me to play in this tournament, so I feel like you want to allow people who help you out, you want to help them out too.
That's Tony Romo with Sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
Mostly sunny and becoming quite comfortable today with high temperatures flirting with 80 degrees. There's only a small chance of a few spotty showers or storms this afternoon, and after that, we stay dry the rest of the week and sun-splashed. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot, currently 82 degrees.
This is Chad Spate. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the hatred and misinformation that consumes our world, but I also know that we cannot build a house of justice and inclusion on a foundation of hatred and lies. We have to practice what we preach. At Chad's Design Build, we confront injustice the same way we confront a poorly built home, with love, compassion, intelligence, and persistence. We engage our community the way we engage our clients, with honesty and humility and the dogged determination that we can do better. Chad's Design Build, remodeling done well with love.
Wisconsin Capital Management in Madison is a registered investment advisory firm and has been serving their clients for the past 40 years. The firm is focused on providing investment advisory services to its affiliated mutual funds. Their approach to investment management is designed to provide competitive performance over the entire business cycle. Their clients rely on them to manage their assets through the fluctuations of market cycles, and they strive to outperform over the long term. For information, visit wiscap.com.
Todd Albaugh.
Hey, everybody, join us next time as Trigny Olson and Pat Kreitlow joins us for the Republican National Convention, Wisconsin Media Row. Be there.
The Todd Albaugh Show, weekdays noon till 2. The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show, a Taco Tuesday edition. The setting Campali Taqueria, East Brady Street, Milwaukee, like the good old days we used to broadcast down here on Brady and Dom. Of course, that little side show up the street, the RNC MKE 2024, little political convention in town, but we're doing tacos and tequila because it is Tuesday, sir.
It is, and thank you for listening. Thank you, Rich, working the board. You can join us on the lines, 844-967-2789, or you can come down to East Brady Street, come and hang out with the Devil's Advocates. We will be here for the next several hours. Maggie Dawn, our friend, also a host in her own right. She's going to join us at 5 o'clock as well. The breaking news out of Milwaukee, a little bit more coming through here. As reported, the Milwaukee General Sentinel, an officer shoots and kills a person in Milwaukee outside of the RNC perimeter. They are saying that a gentleman who lived in a tent encampment known by the nickname Jehovah was shot and killed by Columbus, Ohio police officers. As more information comes, we will let you know. This happened on Fleet and 14th.
We did have a conversation with our friend, and he's a lifelong Milwaukee resident, Earl Ingram. Earl Ingram gave a little more information than that. He had claimed that there was a knife fight, or someone had drawn a knife, and this was the instigating circumstance, but hundreds of cops in the park to deal with this circumstance. And above and beyond that, there are thousands of cops here in Milwaukee with not a hell of a lot to do except maybe police a homeless fight, perhaps.
According to the Journal Sentinel, more than 100 officers on bicycles, horses, and on foot are visible at the scene. A van labeled as belonging to the city of Columbus was also parked nearby. The Milwaukee County DA, John Chisholm, is also on location.
Above and beyond that, Dom, national headline, this one, a bit of a shocker. Apparently, there is intel that the Iranians are plotting to assassinate Donald Trump. And this intel had led the Secret Service to increase Trump's security recently, and yet there was still an assassination attempt that was nearly successful over the weekend. Fox News, my source here, the U.S. Secret Service has increased protection of former President Trump in recent weeks due to intelligence suggesting a possible plot by Iran in an attempt to assassinate the former president. Now, 2 federal law enforcement sources told Fox News the level of the plot by Iran is unclear. And the sources said there had been an increase in Secret Service protection to Trump in recent weeks because of the intelligence. The Department of Homeland Security and Secret Service have been increasingly concerned about Trump's holding outdoor events and have even expressed concern to Trump's campaign. Trump has been increasingly targeted since Soleimani's killing in January of 2020, but the new threat only developed over the past few days. These sources said the Iranian plot is not connected in any way to the attempted assassination of Trump by Thomas Crooks, the 20-year-old Pennsylvanian man that climbed up on a roof and took some pot shots at the former president, apparently hitting his ear.
Wow. New York Times also reporting the Trump campaign was told about the Iranian threat not long before Saturday's shooting, according to 2 people, although it was not clear whether the former president himself was informed. The intelligence that prompted the warning was new but consistent with previous threat information, according to U.S. officials. The intensifying campaign season with increasing public rallies offered more opportunities for an attack. One national security official said that although the threat was taken seriously, it did not appear from the intelligence to be fully developed. The Iranian threat, as you mentioned, comes from the taking out the strike ordered by Trump in January of 2020 that killed Major General Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian security intelligence commander responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American troops in Iraq over the years. Reported Iranian threats against Trump administration officials like Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, and Bolton, the former National Security Advisor, resulted in government security details even after they left office.
Here was another intriguing headline I saw at the Washington Post earlier today. Police snipers, now this referencing the assassination attempt on Trump over the weekend. Police snipers were inside the building as the Trump rally shooter fired from the roof above.
Wow, it's this insanity.
The revelation adds to a growing list of questions about the security arrangement outside the Pennsylvania rally's perimeter. Again, this coming from the Washington Post. I'm going to throw this out for your consideration, fair audience. Local police who were assigned by the Secret Service to help spot threats in the crowd at Donald Trump's rally Saturday were inside the building where a gunman had positioned himself on the roof to shoot at the former president, according to the Secret Service in an official brief on the incident. From inside the AGR International Building, they spotted a man acting furtively, walking back and forth around the building with some gear and radioed a Secret Service command post to alert them, the official said. The revelations add to a growing list of conditions and questions about the Secret Service plan for securing areas outside the perimeter and about the failure of law enforcement to act quickly enough on multiple early warnings of suspicious activity. The Washington Post reported in a video analysis Monday that bystanders at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, warned local police that they had seen a man clambering on the roof of the building. A video posted to social media shows one man shouting, "Officer, officer," as others point towards the building. "He's on a roof," the woman says. The account from the Secret Service officials also underscores emerging tensions between that agency and local authorities over who is to blame for the fact the gunman was able to access a clear view of the event. The Secret Service was responsible for overall security plan, but the agency has said it relied on local law enforcement in areas outside the security perimeter. The AGR building was not inside the perimeter, which required members of the public to pass through a metal detector before entering down. Similar to the green zone uptown.
I mean, you have a rifle that can shoot, I don't know, how many yards?
300 yards accurately at minimum.
So
AR-15.
wouldn't that be, I don't know, call that the security perimeter? And this was, 140 away?
Well, and there are perhaps more accurate sniper rifles, but yeah, man, you'd want to clear half a mile, I think, at least. At least. And I've heard it speculated, this was not a 1,000-foot shot from some sniper from some hidden rooftop location, and the guy had been sleeping there for 3 days to stake out the spot.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid's walking around the building with the cops inside, furtively, as it's being described by the Washington Post coverage, and effectively climbed the building in plain view of the public. A cop goes up the ladder, descends the ladder, apparently in fear for his life, and the guy pops off shots at Trump and damn near changes the course of history.
A Secret Service official said the sniper team inside the building was from Beaver County, which neighbors Butler County, where Saturday's rally took place. Local authorities said it was common for SWAT teams in nearby counties to supplement security for large events throughout western Pennsylvania. The Beaver County DA's office confirmed that a SWAT team from the county was at Saturday's rally, but declined to release additional information, pointing to ongoing investigations. In a written statement, the county DA said, "We're proud of the heroic actions taken by our officers." Now, Richard Goldinger, the Butler County DA, said in his interview that the SWAT teams from his jurisdiction were all inside the secure perimeter. Secret Service was in charge, and so it was their responsibility to make sure that the venue and the surrounding area was secure. That's common sense. I think that's their job. He added, for them to blame local law enforcement is them passing the blame when they hold the blame, in my opinion. A lot of finger pointing going on right now.
Well, somebody is to blame. And a guy crawled up on a roof and took several shots at the former president. And again, I didn't want to see this occur, Don. This would be a terrible leap-off point in history. Could lead to civil war. Of course, nobody wants this, right? And there was already credible threats apparently being reported by Fox News and others that the Trump team was aware. Now, the Trump team has some say over the venues that they choose for their candidate.
Certainly.
You may not want to put your guy out there at a trailer park location, if you know what I'm saying, an industrial park where you can control the perimeter itself, but outside that direct perimeter, 150 yards, 120 yards, you got other buildings not being controlled, rooftops. Yeah, I think this...
That's a failure. In any way you look at it, yes, by everyone. The locals and the Secret Service.
And here's the problematic part. Of course, Trump being the target of this, it gives license to every conspiracy theorist on the right to say this is the deep state. That's what this is. This was a plot. This was, the Secret Service creating vulnerabilities. And now you're going to trust the FBI to investigate the same FBI that wanted to kill Trump at Mar-a-Lago, according to Trump, when they executed the search warrants.
Although the same warrant had the same boilerplate on it when they executed it on Biden's residence.
Yeah, but it doesn't spin as well into a conspiracy theory when you base it in fact on.
Well, lots of questions to be answered. We are not in charge of those investigations, so we will report them as they come to us. Also, Senator Bob Menendez, guilty on all charges. We'll get into that as well as your phone calls live from Kampali on East Brady Street, about a mile from the RNC. There's parking, there's food. The bar is open. Come on and join us on the lines. Talk or text as well, 844-967-2789. Oh, happy days.
Is Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
Hi, I'm Mike Crute, and I've signed my share of commercial real estate leases. In Madison, I highly recommend Jeff Jansen from Altus Commercial Real Estate. Jeff guided me to my first radio station location on the west side. He helped us move to University Ave, and eventually Jeff set up the lease on the Civic Media World headquarters. No one works harder to provide options in commercial leasing. Call Jeff Jansen and his team at Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101. Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, and a cleaning agent, just like your laundry. For a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Wisconsin summers are too short, so this year we decided to make the most of it. Crute called Go Landscaping, and Cody and his team will take it from here. Go Landscaping can bring your jungle under control or create the lasting outdoor living space you've always dreamed about. Specializing in stone and paver construction, Go Landscaping are the landscaping pros you need. Do what Crute did. Call Cody at Go Landscaping today to get started. 608-807-9245.
The big and tall of political talk. The Devil's Advocates.
Someone, a person to talk to, someone who cares.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open 844-967-2789.
Dominic, we're getting ready for some tequila and some tacos. It is Taco Tuesday. We are at Kimpali Taqueria right here on Brady Street. And yesterday I made the walk back and forth down to the RNC. It's maybe a 15-minute walk down Brady, down to water.
Just over a mile?
So bad,
Yeah,
not so bad. But you can come on down, and the parking's still available. And this party's just getting started, Dom. But Joe Biden is addressing currently, and I believe Rich is ready to help us play some of the sound. I just saw breaking news, this coming from the Washington Post. Biden set to announce support for major changes to the Supreme Court. He is currently speaking to the NAACP convention. Rich, if we're able, let's play the president, Joe Biden. Bring it up for the people.
Guess what? Mom or dad can work. The child can be safe. We're connecting black neighborhoods that were cut off from old highways and disinvestment decades ago. My city, Wilmington, Delaware. I-95 runs up through what used to be the black community, divided, 6 lanes wide. We're going to make sure that the state's wanted, we're going to be able to pave over at the top of that and still have the highway. Connecting neighborhoods. We're removing, which is costly, every poisonous lead pipe in a house in America so every child can drink clean water. Without fear of brain damage. We're delivering high-speed and affordable broadband. No child should have to sit out in the parking lot with their moms in front of McDonald's so they can get online to do their homework. So because of you, not only protecting Obamacare, you allow me to increase it, making health care more affordable, and by the way, more than it's ever been, millions of African Americans have now have health care because of it. We're putting home ownership within reach. How do you generate generational wealth, no matter what community you're from? I know how we did it. Everything got stuck in Scranton with no jobs. Moved to Delaware. Dad worked like hell to get down payment to buy a small house. That's how you build equity. As small as a 3-bedroom split-level home with 4 kids and grandpa lived, but it was a home, and he was able to build some equity. Look, we're making the most significant investment in climate ever in all of history. Including the most significant action in environmental justice ever. Look, folks, think about this. My state of Delaware Not many don't know my state. My state, Delaware, has a Delaware River runs up on Jack. But at the top of the state, there's a half moon, and it goes up along more oil refineries on the other side of that half moon in market-looking areas than anywhere in the country, including Houston. And guess what? Wind blows southeast. We had the highest cancer rate for the longest time. Do you know who's affected? Fence line communities. You know the fence line communities are black communities. I promise, as we make this legislation work, we're going to take care of those communities first. I mean it. Same way in Louisiana, same way in other places. Look, we received student debt for more than 4 billion borrowed. Significant amount of black borrowed. I don't know how many have called me, say, Mr. President, I've got phone numbers, I've called them back. Mr. President, thank you. Couldn't get married. The debt was so large. Couldn't have children. Couldn't think of, no, I'm serious, you know it. Couldn't buy a home. But what you did, you freed me of my debt, and you gave me $10,000 for a down payment on a home. This project, 2024, Trump, 2025, Trump deal. You know, he talks about education. HBCUs are as good as any other university. I'm serious. Not a joke. Tom and I have a constant fight. She says Howard's the best. I say Delaware State's the best. That's where I got my spot. But my point is this. They don't have the endowment. So what are the jobs in the future? The high-tech jobs in the future. They pay a lot of money. They don't have the money for the laboratories. They don't have the money for all that material. So that's why I've invested a stretch record $16 billion in HBCUs. No HBCU student is getting less qualified than this student anywhere else. By the way, making sure that no one goes to jail for the mere use or possession of marijuana. The record should be expunged. Holds them back. All told because of you, NAACP, making the most significant investments in Black America ever in all of history. We're seeing the results. The racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. Inflation is down. In 3 years, it's coming down further, and we're going to have, as they say, a soft landing. Folks, you're going to see us grow faster and faster. That's not just my view. It's the view of 16 Nobel Prize-winning economists. We put out a statement looking at my economic plan and Trump's. As my plan will continue to lower inflation, continue to grow the economy. Prices are falling. Cars, appliances, groceries. We're going to keep corporate greed at bay. But here's the thing, what I said about Trump. They said, his policies will cause a recession. Oh, these are not a Democratic outfit. 16 Nobel laureates. Look, I come from the corporate state of the world, Delaware. I know how they work. There are more corporations incorporated in my state than any state in America, all combined. That's what? You have to deal with corporate greed now. That's all it is. Corporate profits are double since the pandemic. They keep bringing prices down. We have to bring prices down further. Look, folks, the idea.
You're listening to President Joe Biden at the NAACP convention. We are the Devil's Advocates. We are live in Milwaukee, the occasion, the RNC MKE 2024, and a party down here at the Kampali Taqueria. Join us here. It's Taco Tuesday, everyone.
Let's get started. Well, no, it's not enough to talk about the past. We need a vision for the future.
Mad Radio 92.7 FM, home of the John and Gordy Show.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Senator Ron Johnson going on the attack in his primetime speech at the RNC last night.
Today's Democrat agenda, their policies, are a clear and present danger to America, to our institutions, our values, and our people.
After the speech, Johnson claimed in an interview that wasn't the speech he planned to give. His people aren't saying who changed it, how they did it, or why. A father and daughter from Green Bay are dead, the apparent victims of extreme heat while hiking on rugged terrain in a national park in Utah. Albino Herrera Espinoza was 52. Beatrice Herrera was 23. Authorities say they died in 100-degree heat last week after they ran out of water. I'm Terry Bell. Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson. More than a dozen cars were broken into yesterday on the city's west side, and it happened in an area we usually think to be the most secure. Madison police say it was in an underground parking garage belonging to an apartment building on University. Thieves broke into more than 15 cars by smashing the windows to get in. If you have any information, call Madison Police. And Food Fight, the Madison Restaurant Group, has tightened security at its only Milwaukee location. Il Servo is next to Fiserv Forum on the top floor of the Trade Milwaukee Hotel. Only credentialed people with clearance into the convention will be allowed into the restaurant going forward. They also needed additional security sweeps after the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Businesses, groups, and volunteers involved in the Republican National Convention are taking extra safety measures after this past weekend. The RNC and Secret Service haven't made changes to the actual convention space, but so far there haven't been any issues. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson. This is WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Animated films continue to save this summer's box office. Despicable Me 4 enjoyed its second week at the top with a theater haul of $44 million. Inside Out 2 continues to have legs as well with a $20 million take in its fifth weekend in theaters. Inside Out 2 has become the top-grossing Pixar film of all time and still has a shot at being the top-grossing animated film of all time. And speaking of legs, Longlegs came in second place with a take of $22 million. The Nicolas Cage film is an FBI procedural about a serial killer and not only took in much more than expected, it scored the biggest opening weekend for an independent film in the genre in over a decade. Rounding out the top five for last weekend were A Quiet Place Day One with a $12 million haul and the Channing Tatum-Scarlett Johansson film Fly Me to the Moon, which came in fifth place with a $10 million gross. The film got mediocre reviews from critics, but high marks from audiences. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly clear tonight, low in the upper 50s. Mostly sunny for tomorrow, a high in the mid-70s and upper 70s with more sunshine Thursday. Mostly sunny and upper 70s to near 80 by Friday. Saturday and Sunday, a slight chance of showers, highs close to 80. Right now we're at 83 degrees.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite Slimming Black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com. Because we got bills too.
At Chance Design Build, we provide remodeling done well with love. Our commitments extend beyond our workplace and your home to support our community. We judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, and we believe all humans deserve quality, publicly funded education, child care, and health care. But what do you believe in? At Chance Design Build, we believe every person must have the opportunity to thrive. If you're thinking about remodeling your home, go to chancedesignbuild.com to learn more about our commitments to you, your home, and our community.
John Peterson and Gordy Young.
On our next show, Mike McCabe will join us, as well as Richard Trent from Main Street Alliance. We'll talk to you first thing in the morning.
The John and Gordy.
I would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show live in Milwaukee, Kampali Taqueria, East Brady Street. The party's just getting started up in here. We got a fine guest joining us soon. Maggie Dawn, attorney-at-law, host of the Maggie Dawn Show. I see she's outside enjoying the weather still. She'll come inside for the 5 o'clock happier hour. It is the happy hour here, man.
And it is glorious down here on Brady Street, east side in Milwaukee. You can also take your calls at 844-967-2789. President Biden speaking at the NAACP convention as we speak. He also spoke with Lester Holt last night. Crute, we have some sound of that. We'll bring it to you as well.
Rich, when you're ready, we're going to play some of the interview, Lester Holt with Joe Biden. And the one complaint I did hear, and this came from Joe Scarborough, very salty about the fact that Lester Holt didn't give any context to the question. Joe Biden, you said you put a target on his back. Well, but the context was that was in a private fundraiser. That was not in a public statement, as Trump has often done. And when not offered proper context, it seems like relativism.
It seems worse?
Well, it seems like both sides do it. Everybody's got this heated rhetoric, and I don't think that's entirely accurate. I think one side does it a lot more than the other side does it. But anyways, Rich, with your cooperation and assistance, let's play for the people. Here is President Joe Biden on Lester Holt last night, played out on NBC.
How do you talk about the threat to democracy, which is real, when a president says things like he says? Do you just not say anything because it may incite somebody? Look, I've not engaged in that rhetoric. Now, my opponent is engaged in that rhetoric. He talks about there'll be a bloodbath if he loses, talking about how he's going to forgive all the, actually, I guess, suspend the sentences of all those who were arrested and sentenced to go to jail because of what happened in the Capitol. I'm not out there making fun of, like, remember the picture of Donald Trump when Nancy Pelosi's husband was hit with a hammer, joking about it?
Yes.
I do recall, yes, unfortunately. And that's one of the things that you go to in these situations. At least I do in my mind when I hear the rhetoric and you see what happened. You got to tone it down. Everyone's got to tone it down. The internet is alive forever, man. Things Trump said, things that he tweeted out with regard to Paul Pelosi have been terrible. Not just him, but also some of his mega supporters as well.
We do have one more of the cuts, I believe. Lester Holt, NBC, last night with Joe Biden. Again, didn't really set context for his audience, but we always try to set it for you.
We do our best.
Play it for the people if you'd be so kind, Rich.
You appeared to be confused.
Lester, look. Why don't you guys ever talk about the 28 lies he told? Where are you on this? Why didn't the press ever talk about that? 28 times it's confirmed he lied in that debate. I had a bad night. I wasn't feeling well at all. And I had been, I screwed up. But
I just asked the question because the idea that you may or may not have seen what some of these other folks have seen. You're not on the same...
I'd have to see I was there. I'd have to see it. I was there. And by the way, seriously, you won't answer the question, but why didn't the press talk about all the lies he told?
Well,
I don't know anything about that.
We have reported many of the issues that came up during that debate.
No, you haven't.
We'll provide you with them.
God love you.
Well, you did a better job of taking on Lester Holt than perhaps Trump on the debate stage. Jennifer Rubin over at the Post makes an interesting point through her headline, Dom. Serious coverage of political violence has never been more critical. The media should re-embrace journalism's mission of informing the citizenry about vital issues. Well, that's us, Dom. Let's inform away.
The vital issues only.
Here's the who. Devil's advocates. Here's the what. Partying. Here's the where. Kampali Taqueria, you could be a part. Come on down. It is Taco Tuesday. When, right now, and why? because you don't want to be at the RNC, you want to be at our party. But anyways, back to the coverage at the Post. After the horrible assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump, Biden spoke eloquently Sunday about the need to lower the temperature, to renounce violence, and to engage in peaceful political debate. Like Dom and I always do, always peaceful.
Always peaceful.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, he implored viewers. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. It's time to cool it down, and we all have to have a responsibility to do that. He nevertheless stressed the need for vigorous debate.
Yes, always.
We're always down for that vigorous debate as well. Now, his, well, how do you say that one?
His
admonishment.
Admonition.
Admonition. I always say it in a different verb tense. His admonition might have been to politicians and voters, but the media should pay close attention as well. The constant focus on polling and predicting, we're guilty sometimes, almost invariably incorrectly. That's more you than I.
Come on.
The implications of unprecedented events only makes the media look small. I know she's talking about you now. Unserious and irrelevant in a historic test of our democracy. Hysterical predictions and nonstop handicapping misunderstand the public's perception of politics. And she writes in parentheticals, hence such reports are often met with a yawn by the average voter and without any appreciable movement in the polls. Worse, such jabber crowds out essential coverage of genuine threats to democracy and the visions of the two parties. Well, only one party's even got a platform, Dom, as far as I can tell. Instead, the shooting at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, should prompt the media to raise the level of discourse and re-embrace the mission of journalism, to inform the citizenry about critical issues, grading Trump's speeches on style points and admiring his technique in playing the crowd, as opposed to highlighting his efforts to subvert democratic norms, does not help create an informed electorate. Rather, it conceals the essential case based on the record in the GOP's avowed policy aspirations that the campaign poses a danger to our constitutional system.
Informing the citizenry about critical issues. That's what we do. Rubin goes on to write, responsible media coverage should focus on several substantive topics. For starters, the shooting should be placed in the context of our intolerable gun culture. As former classmates of the shooter have noted, high school students live in fear of mass shootings by their peers. Hard questions about the shooter's access to a weapon of war, about age limits on such weapons, and yes, about Republican resistance to curbing access to such weapons should be a topic of coverage. Responsible media outlets should press Republicans to explain their insistence that all it takes to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Here, the shooting was not prevented by a slew of highly armed law enforcement officials. Second, Rubin writes, the press has an obligation to carefully probe the rise of political violence and the violent rhetoric that preceded this. On Sunday, Biden told Americans, quote, violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress and both parties are being targeted, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of a former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against a sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump, unquote. In the aftermath of the shooting, Rubin writes, many Republicans are pointing at the rhetoric of some Democrats in a clear effort to chill criticism of Trump's undermining of democracy.
Now, I heard Dan O'Donnell trying to make that case this morning. It's the Democrats. Yeah. We're the evil ones, always talking about gun rhetoric. I'm just saying. That's what he was talking about.
That's how right-wing talk radio is presenting it.
Yes.
Rubin goes out to
Here in Milwaukee, RNC week.
It is not appropriate. Indeed, it is essential to cover Trump and his supporters' actions and rhetoric preceding the shooting as well. The horrific nature of the shooting should not stand in the way of the media's examination of Trump's role in the degeneration of our political discourse. They should press him and fellow Republicans to explain and renounce talk of televised military tribunals for January 6 committee members and threats to execute the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Trump's newly announced running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, a Republican from Ohio, who on Saturday made the unsupported accusation that the shooting was, quote, not just some isolated event, should be scrutinized as well.
That's hardly ancient history. It's Tuesday.
No,
the man said it this weekend.
Third, the incident should refocus attention on the candidates' policy proposals. Yes, that'd be nice. Biden on Friday reissued his call for a ban on semi-automatic weapons. The Heritage Foundation's influential Project 2025 embraces ideas such as rounding up 11 million undocumented immigrants and using the military to quell dissent. What are the implications for public safety and domestic stability? Talk of retribution against enemies raises concern about the independence of prosecutors, something Trump appended in his first term. Demonizing the FBI certainly has had tragic consequences, as Attorney General Merrick Garland has pointed out. And finally, Rubin writes, the Secret Service deserves intense examination. Now under scrutiny for its worst security breach since 1981 attempted assassination of President Ronald Reagan, the Secret Service is facing pressure to determine whether it failed to devote enough resources to the protection of a former president turned presumptive presidential nominee, the Post reports. Among the questions agency officials are seeking to answer, according to a senior official, is whether the agency suffered a critical breakdown in communications with local police in Butler, PA, who were assigned to secure the outer perimeter where the gunman positioned himself on the roof of a nearby building. As Carol Lenning has documented, a long history of scandals and screw-ups has plagued the Secret Service. After each incident, coverage fades and the media moves on. After a scandal of this magnitude, it is essential to keep our attention focused. Jennifer Rubin at the Post concludes, in short, this horrible accident should provide the opportunity for a media reset. A media reset, Crute. Put aside the unhelpful, obsessive speculation about how the shooting might affect the election. Instead, focus with renewed intensity on guns, responsibility for political violence, the candidates' respective policy plans, and the deplorable state of our Secret Service. It's time for the media to raise its game and meet a moment of extreme crisis in our democracy. Rubin over at the Washington Post.
I do have a statement from the traveling pool with the White House. Joe Biden apparently took the stage at the NAACP today, and we played you some of that speech. He has now wrapped that speech to chance of 4 more years. Before the President of the United States spoke, a lineup of Biden administration officials took the stage to talk about the administration's agenda. Acting HUD Secretary Adrienne Todman, Assistant Attorney General Christine Clark, Stephen K. Benjamin, Senior Advisor to the President, all spoke. Todman spoke about HUD's efforts to expand affordable housing, and Clark about police accountability. As he hyped the crowd, Benjamin at one point brought out White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre to the stage. Many in the section closest to the stage stood and applauded. She did not speak. NAACP President Derek Johnson then spoke. He demanded police reform. He also spoke of the election. A quote, there has been much that has been accomplished for and by our community, Mr. Johnson. He also condemned Project 2025. Folks, we're the Devil's Advocates. We are pro tacos and tequila. It is Tuesday. We are at Kampali, and we want you to join us. The party's just starting to flush out, fill out, if you will, Tom. And the coverage that we offer, I think we should reset them.
Yeah, happy hour is coming up soon.
I know. That's where the tequila and the tacos
That's what I'm saying. We will reset. Come back with us. Maggie Dawn's going to join us at the top of the hour. We're going to get some of your phone calls next, 844-967-2789.
I also want to get Maggie Dawn's opinion. The Washington Post reporting at this hour, Biden set to announce support for a major change to the Supreme Court. The crowd is down for it.
Yes.
Come back, more Devil's Advocates live from Kampali. It's RNC MKE 2024. Doing it right on Taco Tuesday.
Listening to Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX.
you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio. Is doing it yourself not working out? Don't need the whole building for your business anymore? Call Altus Commercial Real Estate. They'll help you find quality tenants to fill your vacancies. They market, they show, they negotiate the terms. They do all the legwork and keep you informed. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101, 608-338-1101.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Lake Ridge Bank presents Atwood Fest on Madison's East Side. Enjoy live music on 3 stages from local, national, and international artists, with plenty of food and craft vendors along Atwood Avenue, from Tex Tubs to Monty's Blue Plate. And bring the kiddos for Kids Fest, but don't bring the puppers. Leave your pets at home. 3 stages, 30 bands over 2 days on Madison's East Side. It's time for Atwood Fest, Saturday and Sunday, July 27th and 28th. For a full music schedule, log on atwoodfest.com.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
And thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live from Kampali on Brady Street, east side of Milwaukee, about a mile from the RNC. You can join us here, or you can join us on the lines, 844-967-2789.
And the story out of Milwaukee, the homeless man shot by Columbus, Ohio police. The story gets worse and worse, at least from my perspective, Dom. It wasn't one cop, it was 5 cops.
5 police officers from Columbus, Ohio, shot a man this afternoon just west of downtown, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. 14th and Valete.
Glad I wasn't there for the crossfire, Dom.
Yeah.
When you got 5 cops shooting at one guy, they're bound to be a little crossfire. There was the other headline that we wanted to bring to your attention. The Washington Post breaking this story in the last hour, Dom. President Joe Biden set to announce support for major Supreme Court changes. Plans include proposals for legislation to establish term limits for justices.
Term limits.
And an enforceable ethics code. Say it ain't so, Joe. President Biden is finalizing plans to endorse major changes to the Supreme Court in coming weeks, including proposals for legislation to establish term limits for the justices and an enforceable ethics code. That one seems, necessary.
Seems very minimal. That's great. How about expanding the court? But please continue.
According to 2 people briefed on the plans, he is also weighing whether to call for a constitutional amendment to eliminate broad immunity for presidents and other constitutional office holders. The people said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss private deliberations. The announcement would mark a major shift for Biden, a former chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who has long resisted calls to reform the high court. The potential changes come in response to growing outrage amongst his supporters about recent ethics scandals surrounding Justice Clarence Thomas and decisions by the new court majority that have changed legal precedent on issues including abortion and federal regulatory powers. Let me point out to you folks, I'm going to interrupt myself here.
Okay.
Bob Menendez convicted of corruption today.
Yes.
$490,000 in 13 gold bars and a down payment on a Mercedes-Benz. That's about a tenth of what Clarence Thomas received from his grandiose
I got rich.
givers.
I got rich friends.
How is it corrupt when the U.S. Senator does it, but a Supreme Court Justice gets 10 times the same amount of money?
And no biggie.
And, why recuse? Why set anything aside?
Many, if not all, of the changes would probably need congressional approval. The details of Biden's considered policies have not been disclosed. But hell, at least he's thinking about it, folks. 844-967-2789. Let's get a couple of callers in before Maggie Dawn joins us in the Happy Hour. John from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. You are up, John. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, John.
Hi, Jay. Great show. Hey, what Rojo did was pretty much what they call in soccer own goal. He just opened his mouth and put his foot right in it. The other question I have is, what's up? Where's Mike Pence? I thought he was the vice president. That Trump's big guy. Where's Mike Pence?
Where is Mike Pence? John,
He's just hanging out, John.
That's a great question. Where's Mrs. Trump? Where's Melania? Yeah.
Melania was not at the RNC. She's not a big fan. She hears Milwaukee's a horrible city, Dom.
Oh, it's a great city. Mark from the SAC, you are next. Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's clear to me that too many of the Republican Party, have forgotten that their oath of fealty is to the Constitution of the United States and to the people of the United States, not to their orange messiah. I mean,
it's supposed to be, Mark.
It is just deeply disturbing that J.D. Vance has actually come out and said, I would have overturned the election. I mean, that that should just be immediately disqualifying.
Well, Mark, but you got to assume that's exactly why
he went to the top of the list.
Went to the top of the list. That's what Trump wants to hear, man. You can't have a guy like our last caller just said. Where's Mike Pence been? Well, he is persona non grata. This is no longer the grand old party. This is no longer the Republican Party, Mark. This is now the mega party. And the reason he got that job, because he would absolutely, he said it himself, he would absolutely do that. Thanks for the call, buddy. 844-967-2789. Rich, I think we have some sound, if I recall, of J.D. Vance. He said some things a few years ago about, women staying in violent marriages. I want to throw this one out before Maggie gets on the line here because she's got something to say about it, folks. This is now your new VP candidate for the mega ticket. If you would, please, Rich.
And this is one of the great tricks that I think the sexual revolution pulled on the American populace, which is this idea that these marriages were fundamentally, they were maybe even violent, but certainly they were unhappy. And so getting rid of them and making it easier for people to shift spouses like they change their underwear, that's going to make people happier in the long term. And maybe it worked out for the moms and dads, though I'm skeptical, but it really didn't work out for the kids of those marriages. And I think that's what all of us.
Wow.
Are the children of abusive marriages, aren't they the ones that keep the therapeutic industry in business?
According to J.D. Vance, stay in a violent marriage because that's what he wants you to do. It's the only way to do it because, God or whatever. Unbelievable, terrible advice from now your Republican candidate for vice president.
Dom, sometimes you get a little abusive with me, but I just assume it's you being hangry. I think it's time for tacos.
Yes.
I think it's time for tequila. And I absolutely know it's time for a fine guest. She is attorney Maggie Dawn, broadcaster extraordinaire, two-time WBA award winner. I don't have no crystal trophies. I didn't even see it until I snuck in her office one day. Come on back, more Devil's Advocates live in Milwaukee, Kapali Taqueria. You can join us. It's taco and tequila time.
Madison's home for Nightlight with Pete Schwab.
Maggie Dawn.
Next up, I'll be joined by the former Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair, Mike Tate, as well as former U.S. Representative from Wisconsin, Scott Klug. Don't miss it.
The Maggie Dawn Show, weekday afternoons at 2.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt in Tom's favorite Slimming Black white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224EG Madison, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Day 2 of the Republican National Convention getting underway in Milwaukee. Unity is the theme tonight. Speakers include one-time rivals of Donald Trump, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Security is heightened following the assassination attempt of the former president in Pennsylvania, and investigators are looking into the gunman's background and reviewing security. Butler County Sheriff Michael Sloop, meantime, is defending his deputies.
My office staff is receiving phone calls, cussing and swearing that we should have been able to stop this. Boy, do I wish we could have.
President Biden is in Las Vegas speaking at the NAACP conference denouncing the assassination attempt and gun violence. Concerns over Biden's re-election bid still growing. Congressman Adam Schiff privately told donors today he thinks Biden should step aside as the nominee. And a jury convicted Senator Bob Menendez on all 16 counts in his corruption trial, including acting as a foreign agent. He vows to appeal. This is ABC News.
This news report is sponsored by Wisconsin Capital Management, LLC, serving their clients for 40 years. Visit wiscap.com.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Police have reportedly shot and killed a person about 2.5 miles from Fiserv Forum, which is the main RNC venue. There's a large police presence near 14th and Fleet Streets. The officer who fired the fatal shot is from Ohio. Indications are that the incident is not related to the RNC. Wisconsin Republican Party Chair Brian Schimming says he's enthusiastic about J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate for a number of reasons.
He's a Midwesterner. He has a compelling life story. And frankly, I want to be the first one to sell tickets to the debate between J.D. Vance and the vice president.
Vance speaks to the convention in prime time tomorrow night. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson. Flooding continues in spots across southern Wisconsin. The Rock River and Lake Koshkonong are in minor flood stages, according to the National Water Prediction Service. Staff at the Island Bar tell WMTV business has dropped big time this summer. People aren't coming by boat with high waters and no wake zone declarations. Residents and business owners are used to the river and lake flooding in the spring, but dealing with it mid-July is highly unusual. Meanwhile, UW Health is adding more and more facilities. As the provider gears up to open a big East Side location this fall, it's going to expand its footprint across Dane County by more than 1 million square feet. Demand just keeps growing. More people are moving to the Madison area, baby boomers are getting older, and on top of that, more people are coming from outside Dane County to get great health care here. East Park Medical Center is set to open in October. UW Health is planning for a new location on the west side, and a rehab hospital is coming to Fitchburg. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson for WMDX News.
The All-Stars come out tonight. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball's 86th All-Star game is tonight. The Brewers' William Contreras will start behind the plate at catcher. In right field is the Crew's Christian Yelich, and was asked, what's it like finally being back to play in the Midsummer Classic?
It's been great. You know, it's obviously a really busy couple days, and you're on the go, and there's things to do throughout the whole day and night.
Today is day 3 of Major League's baseball draft. The Brewers picking 12 players so far, 8 of them pitchers. Brewers GM Matt Arnold asked, while manager Pat Murphy has the team in first place, they've lost 7 of their last 10 games.
We've had our share of bumps along the way, but this is a really good group, you know, and I think Murph does an incredible job getting the guys fired up every day. You know, obviously we've gone through a little bit of a rut lately, but this team is really tough, and we win in different ways, and I think we've shown that we're in almost every game, like Murph says, and so I'm really proud of the group and excited to see what we can do in the second half.
NBA, the Bucks play the Clippers tonight in Summer League action in Las Vegas. In sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly clear tonight, low in the upper 50s. Mostly sunny for tomorrow, a high in the mid-70s and upper 70s with more sunshine Thursday. Mostly sunny and upper 70s to near 80 by Friday. Saturday and Sunday, a slight chance of showers, highs close to 80. Right now we're at 83
Every
degrees.
business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America.
Wisconsin Capital Management in Madison is a registered investment advisory firm and has been serving their clients for the past 40 years. The firm is focused on providing investment advisory services to its affiliated mutual funds. Their approach to investment management is designed to provide competitive performance over the entire business cycle. Their clients rely on them to manage their assets through the fluctuations of market cycles, and they strive to outperform over the long term. For information, visit wiscap.com.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, we are live from day 3 of the RNC. The fabulous Farm Babe Pam Yaki will join us, and public service announcement with Dr. Laura Hanks. Don't miss it.
Matnair on air. The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever, and due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, live on the road, Kampali, Taqueria, East Brady Street, Milwaukee. A happy hour. And Dom, we've been joined by a fine guest here at the party table. She's our favorite partying attorney and broadcaster. She's Maggie Don. Welcome, Maggie Don, to the Devils.
Mike, great to be
and
here
Kampali,
with you guys.
which
yes.
I know you've been here before.
Hey, Maggie.
Two tree times.
Two tree times.
Two tree times. So we are having a little party here, a little happy hour, and some politics. And they're having a little MAGA party in Milwaukee. What's been your impression so far, Maggie?
It's intense. I mean, it's just really intense with everything that's happened. I can feel the tension. I can feel the vibe is really. It's incredibly tense.
And you texted me over the course of the weekend, knowing that this was going to be a big weekend in Milwaukee. And I was at Charlie Barron's comedy show, and the assassination attempt of Donald Trump was being widely reported. And this was, I don't want to cast it. How did you perceive this news immediately before the RNC in Milwaukee?
I was sobbing for like 10 minutes. The word that I used to someone was, I'm bereft. The sense of loss that I feel, one, political violence is incompatible with democracy. The very hallmark of democracy is the peaceful transfer of power. And political violence, if we cross through that portal, right, like there's not coming back from that. And it seemed like this, again, slow and inexorable march towards increasing levels of rhetoric and on the right. And I'm not going to be telling the truth clearly and with emphasis is not rhetoric from the left. Trump is a threat to democracy. We can say that and yet absolutely condemn what happened on Saturday. I was beside myself. I was beside myself from the martyrdom that he will place upon himself over it. That makes me really uncomfortable.
What about from the perspective, you're the former Milwaukee County Corporation Counsel, and I know you care about this community quite a bit, this city, this county. From Milwaukee's perspective, what was your feeling?
Yeah,
because you feel this with more gravity than a guy like me sitting in Madison does.
I'm of here and will always proudly be so. And I sent messages to some of my friends that still work in county and city government, like, I'm thinking of you. I hope you are safe. Please do the best that you can, as I know you always do. Thank you for your service. I had reached out to my team at the Corporation Counsel's office last week, as well as the County Executive's office, to say, I'm thinking of you. You have my best wishes for a peaceful and productive RNC that highlights the best of Milwaukee and the best of some of what Wisconsin has to offer. So it's incredibly destabilizing. Again, a friend of mine that works in emergency management, has worked in the intelligence apparatus at the federal level, has served in the military. Her text messages, our exchange was just absolute emotional devastation.
Maggie Dawn, our good friend and fine guest here at Kampali Taqueria, East Brady Street. You can be our guest, join the political party here. Maggie, there is sort of some breaking news, as you may know by now. A apparently homeless man has been shot in Milwaukee by some of the visiting police officers. We had heard it reported from our friend and colleague Earl Ingram that apparently a knife was taken out. And at this hour, most recently, we have heard 5 police officers from Columbus, Ohio, were involved in the shooting. 5 people pulled the trigger. Maggie, this isn't certainly the notoriety we wanted to import to Milwaukee this week.
No, we'll see what unfolds as the incident is discussed more openly.
Five?
Yeah.
5? I mean, what?
Thanks, Dom.
It seems, I don't know. We don't know the details. We don't know all that, but it seems kind of trigger happy. We have a lot of law enforcement officers standing around in the sun, not a whole lot to do. I'm stunned and shocked and disgusted by this. That's de-escalation.
But who said they were de-escalating? Who said the cops? And
de-escalation. No, but de-escalation has been a topic of conversation.
Well, and it should be the first. Listen, a direct threat to the President of the United States needs to be taken out, frankly, right?
Sure.
Okay. If the investigation of this incident makes it clear that this was what looks like is being reported to be a confrontation between at least one person who was unhoused, right, and another I would be remiss if I didn't say clearly there's some mental health issues at play there. And so was there no place for intervention between doing nothing and letting that altercation between 2 civilians get worse and 5 police officers shooting the man?
5 out-of-town police officers. Apparently, according to the reporting at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, this gentleman was known in the area. We don't know the details of his mental state at the time or his sobriety state, but we have 5 out-of-town cops, and this is one of the concerns when you have all these people coming in from around the country, 4,000 or 5,000 police officers in total, not all of them certainly from outside the city, but most of them. These are the kinds of things that could happen. It's very scary. I mean, hopefully no one else was hurt, but we'll have to wait and see what the reporting is. But when you see the headline there were 5 cops shooting a homeless guy.
Well, and we all know this. What I'm going to say is sort of obvious if you've lived and observed reality, right? And we'll openly talk about it. Is that the manner in which cops familiar with certain neighborhoods, certain individuals that are high needs, that have touched the system a number of times in large cities, there's a different way that they engage policing when they're at their best. And I certainly know a number of police in the city of Milwaukee that do that kind of de-escalation work, that intervention, that really try to meet people where they're at, to help somebody through what can be a crisis moment. And we know that it can be very different in different jurisdictions. So I think your point, Dominic, is well taken.
Folks, you're listening to the Devils Advocates Radio Show live in Milwaukee. We're at Kimpali Taqueria on East Brady Street. We've had a few friends join us. I see Chris and Jerry from Sun Prairie. That's a hell of a trip they've made, and a few other friends, the Ukrainian and others. Come on down is the point, because Maggie Dawn, our fine guest, is here. And Maggie, the RNC is restarted for the evening, and they just did the Pledge of Allegiance. And shocker, Eric Hudvey was not asked to lead. And I don't know why. I mean, he did so well at the Slinger Speedway that one time, but he does have a speaking role tonight. And
oh my gosh.
Reince Priebus may even speak before the end of this fine program. What are you expecting tonight? Sort of a Wisconsin-centric platform, before later in the evening they have all the didn't become the vice presidential speeches.
If Mr. Priebus if Attorney Priebus does speak, as does Mr. Hovde, what I would suggest is that you take a close look at the actual content and tone of both of those speeches. I'll just say this, my impression of Attorney Priebus, ex-chief of staff for Donald Trump, has been one that is a minefield for the man. I think he understands some of the serious institutional issues. He's a lawyer, very smart guy. I think he understands, again, some of the institutional legitimacy issues. Mr. Hovde does not, and he thinks because he's a rich guy, he gets to be a senator too. Gosh darn it. So I think there's going to be a sharp contrast between those two speeches. I'll be interested to hear both.
Maggie, what's been your sense of the speeches so far? I happened to catch some of it yesterday, and this guy, David Sachs, gave the weirdest, and I just randomly happened to put it on. I'm like, I said, home.
Like, who this?
Who this guy? And why is he speaking? Oh my God! What is going on? The general theme of unity has gone out the window. The attacks on the LGBTQ communities.
Well, they're all back.
Ron Johnson saying that the policies of the Democrat they're a
threat to
clear
democracy
and present danger.
I know.
Wrong speech on the teleprompter, not my
Ron
fault.
Burgundy apparently was there instead of Ron Johnson. But what's your sense on the flavor so far?
Gross. I mean, the
it tastes like birding.
Yeah, apparently the head feint towards unity was the literal definition of lip service, because I'm not hearing it yet. Again, that's why it makes me interested to hear what Attorney Priebus is going to say, because at least reputationally he remains a reasonable Republican. Again,
one of the few of the old guard still around, if you call him an old guard.
Hypothetically, I mean, again, I'll trademark and copyright this now. Make Republicans grand again. I mean, like, it's the grand old party, like, fix thyself. Let's see what happens. But Ron Johnson's speech was unhinged at best, intentional gaslighting at worst. Gross.
F you, San Diego. She's our fine guest. She is Attorney Maggie Dawn. Broadcaster Maggie Dawn, award-winning broadcaster Maggie Dawn. Makes me a little envious when I say that.
You got like a second place one time, didn't you?
We got a couple.
Star of
they're much.
You know what they call
less
second
nice.
place?
First loser.
Yeah. Here's your participation award.
Come on back, a couple of first losers and a winner. Sitting at Kimpali Taqueria, East Brady Street. You can be a winner when you join the party. 844-967-2789. Or if you come on down, I'll buy your first one. Even you, Gary.
Mad Radio WMDX, home of the John and Gordy Show. Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to reach our raving Madison and Dane County fans, or affordably reach the whole state, Chicago, Minneapolis, and our nationwide stream audience today. The Devil's Advocates can be the voice of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwy.com. That's Crute at darnwy.com. It is one of the most important business decisions you will make, selling your commercial building. It should involve making a plan to maximize your sale price through effective and responsive marketing. Your plan should also include a clear understanding of tax consequences. You need the professionals at Altus Commercial Real Estate to guide your success. Experience and responsive professionals make all the difference. Make your plan to sell. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate today at 608-338-1101. Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announced the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
Covering all the news that affects you with humor and a unique perspective. Matinaire on Air with Jane Matinaire. Weekdays 11 till noon on the talk you can't ignore. Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX and on the Civic Media app.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, broadcasting live from Kampali on East Brady Street, east side of Milwaukee, just about a mile from the Pfizer Forum, where the RNC is going off right now. Maggie Dawn, our guest for one more segment. Maggie, thank you for coming down and hanging out.
Can I add a unity message?
No. There's my unity. Okay,
We're unified on the radio right now.
Go ahead. What's your unity message?
It wasn't really a unity. It's just going to be F those guys, but let's continue. It's not a unity message.
The vice presidential candidate has been announced. It is J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance was a one-time never-Trumper. Compared him, I think he called him the American Hitler. But that was the media's fault.
Cultural
heroin.
No. But Tom,
right, he believed the media. He believed
it was the media's fault.
Yeah.
This Yale graduate couldn't noodle through it on his own. It was the media's fault.
He was totally convinced and spun by the media.
Yep.
Convinced Hillary was going to win.
But now, and that's fine. I guess if you're going to sell your soul and this is what you want to do, a little bit of power. That's what he can do. He did say, it was a very concerning thing, and perhaps the thing that boosted him to the top of the list, that he would have done what Pence did not do.
That was the only qualification on the job application, I think.
But he also had some historical things to say about, violent marriages. He said essentially that, if you change your partners like underwear and you're in a violent marriage or a bad marriage and you get out, it's really bad for the kids. And essentially you should stay in an abusive relationship, according to J.D. Vance. Maggie Dawn, what was your thought when that came back around again? Because this was in, 2021?
Yeah, J.D. Vance is sort of the dressed up Ivy League version of Donald Trump, right? He's the thinking iteration of it. And yet even the thinking iteration of it, that's not just coming from a pure id perspective, will say things like, I'm certain it's better for children if they watch their mom get physically abused in a marriage. I'm sure that's better for them. Well, thanks, JD, for your opinion. Respectfully, I dissent.
Isn't that kind of like how that is taught? Because that behavior is taught, right?
Of course it is.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and that it continues then if you're part of that environment.
Talk about, JD, I'm sorry, did you mean to normalize violence against women? Is that your platform?
Strategically, what does he add to the ticket, may I ask?
Nothing.
I mean, come on, but Ohio was already in the column, I'm pretty sure.
He's going to solidify the Midwestern vote for Trump. Solidification?
So he's here to appeal to us.
Yeah, I guess.
Honestly, I think, there were reports that came out after the assassination attempt. And because I'm mentioning it, I just want to say very unequivocally, political violence, again, antithetical to democracy. That doesn't have a party. It has crazy attached to it. There were reports this weekend that Donald Trump may have changed who he picked as the VP, potentially because of the assassination attempt, that he's going to change his. There was all this stuff that came out. If Donald Trump's response and thinking along the lines of we need calm, that we need to come together, that we need to stop villainizing Democrats, if that was his idea, and he's like, oh, well, JD's my guy. Yeah, that's clearly not what the message that a pick of Mr. Vance, all kinds of crazy policy proposals.
But more so or less so than the other candidates?
But Vance literally came out this weekend and said there's something more to this. This was, he was conspiracy.
On X, he blamed Democrats for the assassination attempt.
That was 3 days ago, Maggie Dawn.
Well, it's like 3 years ago now.
Right.
But yes, J.D. Vance represents a much more extreme pick than either of Marco Rubio or Doug Burgum, the governor whose names no one can remember.
The eyebrows, though. You remember the eyebrows.
Those are impressive. Almost as good as Dominic's. But that to me was all you need to know about whether or not Donald Trump is actually going to try to unify America and be a president for the middle class. He's not. And the only thing you need to know about how we came to that conclusion is his pick of J.D. Vance. It's a double down on the MAGA cult, which is by extension simply handing over the reins of power to Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation.
Well, it was Make America Wealthy Again Day at the convention yesterday. And
how do you even say that with a straight face?
Everyone here's rich now.
Yeah.
You're all rich. I've been watching the American economy for 50-ish years. I'm not an economist. I know you have a degree. I don't, but everyone cannot be the rich guy. Someone's got to be the worker. Everyone can't be rich. That's been my experience.
That's why Frank Luntz renamed estate taxes death taxes, because we all die, but not all of us have $11 million to our name, which is when estate taxes kick in, courtesy of Donald Trump. It used to be at $5.5 million. I'll just say this. Would you like wealthy people to be taxed more?
Yes.
If yes,
yes,
it's a vote for Joe Biden and Democrats.
But
if you think that billionaires should pay a lower effective tax rates than every single other American, then vote for Donald Trump. It's that simple.
I was hopeful to be a billionaire someday. Isn't that really?
I still could be. That's why is the hope that someday I will be that billionaire.
It's the American dream to be rich and forget you little people.
But even if that's true, right? Even if you're selling the aspiration, the odds that any of that would ever happen to you are like now lottery ticket small. The system will never let regular people get there anymore.
Well,
regular
unless
people.
They're exceptional
on the radio.
Bootstraps people.
Yeah. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a good friend and a fine guest enjoying hopefully a tequila-based beverage and perhaps a taco. Now you're going to stick around here for a while at the Kampali Taqueria.
Yeah, can I talk about the Supreme Court with you guys?
If you would like.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's.
I just inserted myself into the next
Yay!
segment. Yay!
Maggie's doing the heavy lifting in the next segment. Drinks for all my friends.
No, we got 2 more segments left.
Well,
what's the saying? Champagne for my real friends, real pain for my sham friends.
And water for my horses?
Something like that. Hey.
And tequila for Dom. Come back. More Devil's Advocates with our good friend Maggie Dawn, attorney at law. And she gets it right like damn near all the time.
I try.
We're at Kampali Taqueria. You could be too. Join us.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Oh! Yeah. Yeah.
More news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Among other things, the GOP platform calls for the biggest deportation effort in U.S. history. Christine Newman-Ortiz is a Milwaukee-based advocate for refugees and other immigrants.
We are not afraid of those that demonize us and promote hate and violence and division. We stand united and firm for justice and human rights.
She spoke to a crowd of hundreds of protesters that marched through downtown near the RNC perimeter. The theme of Day 2 of the convention is immigration and crime. Speakers tonight will talk about law enforcement in the southern border. Civic Media will have coverage all day long and a special report tonight at 7 on most of these stations. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. More storms. What a crazy June and July we've had. A supper club in Grant County suffered severe damage in the storms overnight. Village Bar Supper Club in Keeler almost looks like a meteor fell right into it. The roof is just collapsed. It's been owned by the same family for decades and means a lot to the community in Grant County. The family has started a GoFundMe to get it fixed and get back in business as soon as they can. And in an update on a contentious project, we told you a couple weeks ago the Plan Commission approved a proposal for an apartment building on Old Sauk Road. A majority of residents who voiced their opinion say they have concerns about parking and traffic there. Meanwhile, a few said the only way to lower housing costs in the city is to add more and more units like this. Well, the opposed got enough signatures to appeal the Plan Commission's approved zoning for the project, so the Common Council will take up that appeal tonight. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson for WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. Former Beverly Hills 90210 star Shannon Doherty has passed away. The actress's publicist, Leslie Sloan, said that Doherty passed away July 13th, surrounded by her family and her dog. The charmed actress was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015, according to Deadline.com. Doherty was 53 years old. James Caan helped Will Ferrell develop some thick skin on his first film after leaving SNL. Ferrell told Christina Applegate and Jamie Lynn Sigler on the Messy podcast that between takes, Caan would say things like, "You're not funny, I don't get you." Ferrell says it was all an attempt to build up to the boardroom scene where Caan kicks Buddy out of his life, but also admitted to having doubts about the film's comedy when he would look at himself in the elf costume. Ferrell eventually received validation from Caan as they left the premiere when Caan said, "Great job. I thought you were way too over the top, but no, it's brilliant." For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Mostly clear tonight, low in the upper 50s. Mostly sunny for tomorrow, a high in the mid-70s and upper 70s with more sunshine Thursday. Mostly sunny and upper 70s to near 80 by Friday. Saturday and Sunday, a slight chance of showers, highs close to 80. Right now we're at 83 degrees.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite Slimming Black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com, because we got bills too.
This is Chad Spade for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and remodeling professionals in our industry. Are you honest and hardworking? Do you love to improve people's lives by improving their homes? Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Pete Schwaba.
Tuesday night, Nightlight will stream live on Facebook, X, and YouTube from 7 to 8 p.m. during the RNC. We'll be back on the air live from 8 to 9 p.m. where I welcome host of American Ninja Warrior, Matt Eisman.
The Devil's Advocates, Radio for tasty women everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show live in Milwaukee. We're at Kampali Taqueria, and it is the happy hour. The happy hour is in full blast. The happier happy
Full
hour.
effect, baby.
Rolling through it with a fine guest she has commanded us to order over. She's got a fresh beverage. She is Maggie Dawn, attorney at law, our friend and colleague in broadcast. Tune in for her fine show. She leads into us, the Maggie Dawn Show, across the Civic Media Network, 2 to 4. Maggie, Supreme Court. Joe Biden apparently is rolling out term limits, maybe, and some other stuff.
Ethics.
Ethics. Oh, pardon me. Ethics. Didn't mean to get so fresh. What was your first blush reaction to these proposals from President Biden? And, of course, they would take an act of Congress, right?
Yeah, certainly I think term limits and an ethics code is the bare minimum we should be talking about, right? Like the bare minimum. Now, mind you, there will be a case that a lawsuit that's brought if Congress were to ever adopt that and President Biden signed it, someone would challenge it as unconstitutional. What do you think this Supreme Court would do about people trying to actually apply rules to them? I wonder, setting that aside, if Joe Biden proposes these Supreme Court remedies, if you will, institutional improvements, I think we also honestly need to be talking about adding at least 2 seats to the court.
Amen, sister.
I mean, why do this and not add to the court? It's completely out of touch with what the vast majority of Americans think. The vast majority of Americans know that presidents aren't kings and we shouldn't act as if that is a thing. The vast majority of Americans know that a zygote doesn't get, or a blastocyst or a fetus doesn't get 14th Amendment rights to the preference of women. Like, the vast majority of Americans know these things. As well as the fact that, bribing government officials and calling it a tip isn't really a thing.
Gratuity.
May I?
Gratuity.
Yes.
Maggie Dawn, if I may ask a question here, because now you've sort of hit a hot button for me. Bob Menendez, the soon-to-be former
Lock
esteemed
him up.
senator
Yeah.
from New Jersey, was found guilty of corruption charges. My understanding is he accepted $490,000, he accepted 13 gold bars, and he accepted like a $25,000 down payment on a lease for his wife's Mercedes-Benz. That is like 1/10 of what Clarence Thomas has taken in gifts, which he failed to possibly report on his taxes, and certainly failed to put on his disclosure forms. Maggie Dawn, why is Clarence Thomas not the one being convicted on corruption charges? Just asking.
Because he didn't take it from a foreign power. But the interesting situation with both Justice Thomas, but I think almost more acutely with Justice Alito, is that while the total dollar value of what Justice Alito received in terms of those trips and things isn't anywhere near what Justice Thomas has received from his benefactors or the donor class or the billionaire
I got rich
set.
friends.
I got rich friends. A note on that in just a moment. Justice Alito received gifts from someone who then proceeded to have upwards of 10 cases before him in the subsequent years and ultimately decided a case that netted this man somewhere north of $2 billion.
That's real money.
But let's worry about Bob Menendez. I mean, yes, Bob Menendez is a criminal and should go to prison. Yes, and the Supreme Court has lost its legitimacy because of these kinds of situations. A wise mentor once told me, when you enter government service, the friends that you have then are your only friends. In other words, you don't get to upgrade your friend set because you serve in government. You don't get to have richer friends because of that. If they're only your friend because you either met them through your government service or they befriended you afterwards, guess what? Not your friends. They don't get to give you gifts without you disclosing them or paying taxes on them.
Don never gave me anything. I'm lucky if he buys a beer.
I need some new friends. Folks are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Maggie Dawn, our guest.
And friend.
Are
we friends, Maggie? Would you say we're friends?
I think it was AOC put forward some an impeachment something that's going to go anywhere. Who would look at these situations and determine that may be criminal or may not be criminal? I mean, they're not going to investigate themselves at the U.S. Supreme Court.
No.
The Disclosure ProPublica, I think, has been doing a great job on identifying all these things. Now, we don't know. Maybe he did claim it on his taxes. This didn't put him on his reports, disclosures. Probably not. Same thing with the other guy who gave the money. You know, it was not a write-off. Everything's a write-off, Jerry. So, but who determines that? I mean, it seems like to me, well, that's something someone should look at. I'm not going to do that. I don't have, prosecutorial authority. Who could do something like that?
So it's really interesting when you look at a lot of what has transpired over the last, say, 8 to 10 years. We talk about all these things called norms. Well, there's these norms, but there aren't any actual laws about them. Guess whose behavior we regulate the heck out of, have all kinds of specific laws about? Regular people's behavior. Like going into a place and taking something that's not yours and leave it. Those sorts of things. We criminalize the things that apply to middle class and working folks. In other words, things that we see on an everyday basis. But criminalizing corruption and fraud in government and bribery and conflicts of ethics that are simply incompatible with institutional legitimacy,
right,
we're really bad at doing. And it's led to this massive gray area where all of these kinds of arguments can be made. Well, the only ones that can decide what Supreme Court ethics are, the Supreme Court justices.
Well, the Supreme Court justices just gave President Joe Biden the authority to do anything he wants, right? I mean, if that's the case, I'm serious, man.
That's true.
Who would?
Then they gave themselves the right
to determine.
Correct.
Determine whether or not that falls.
Folks, take a note.
In the immune category.
Right? It's 541.
Yep.
I agree with Mike. What the Supreme Court did was announce.
Why make that distinction?
Anoint itself as the final decider of what is immune and what is not immune. That decision provided zero guidance on a meaningful basis to anyone that actually thinks that presidents should be in some way accountable to our system of laws. Zero guidance. I'll tell you, Scalia is rolling over in his grave. The one lauded and held up as this paragon of conservative legal theory was actually a textualist. I think it's a garbage approach to constitutional interpretation, but the man was actually confirmed to that approach. You find the words presidential and immunity together nowhere in the Constitution. It is a thing that they created out of thin air and ephemera. And what they've done is failed to define it with, again, any degree of specificity that would allow people to have confidence in our ability to hold presidents accountable for criminal behavior while in the Oval Office.
Presidents, U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, apparently Congress could be held accountable. Look at Menendez.
But
yes. The executive branch apparently no. The U.S. Supreme Court apparently no. So is the only answer then an overwhelming effort by the citizenry to go out and vote and push the folks that would actually make legislative changes to the U.S. Supreme Court to expand the court, for example? Is that the only way to hold guys like Thomas accountable?
The largest voting bloc in the United States are people who don't vote, like absorb, okay? To me, the solution, like how do you save a democracy? How do you save our systems? How do you make them accountable again? Is just regular people have to show up and vote. And we have to tell the truth all the time as best we can. Correct our errors, correct what we get wrong, and try to get it right and do better tomorrow. Things like presidential immunity, the Supreme Court saying it can't possibly be subjected to an ethics code. These things regular people know are stupid and wrong, and we need to be fearless in repeating that as many times and saying this is an election about democracy. And there's only one possible option. I don't care if it's Joe Biden at the top of the Democratic ticket, Kamala Harris, or anyone else. I'd vote for a tin can over Donald Trump.
I wish you guys would stop saying that. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got a fine guest. She is Maggie Dawn. Maggie Dawn, 2016 was as much about the Supreme Court
as anything,
as it was about actually putting Trump in the White House. People didn't want Trump as badly as the right wanted to control the Supreme Court. And Ron Johnson won re-election in no small part because of that Supreme Court seat that they held open for a year. Can Biden make this, or the Democratic nominee, but I'm assuming it's Biden, can Biden make this an issue in the same way?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I look back at 2016 and I was enraged by the way the Democratic Party ate itself alive. Like, you couldn't get the Bernie bros to come around on things. It was offensive to me, both as a woman and as someone who knew what was at stake on the Supreme Court. We were voting for one thing and one thing only in that election, and that was to preserve some sanity on the Supreme Court. We now see what the results are. Joe Biden can make a similar case to the public. And I'm tired of watching Democrats eat ourselves alive, headline after headline. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. Let's get busy with what's actually happening. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's okay. Maggie Dawn, let me draw a distinction because I don't want to be accused of being a Bernie bro. But
I didn't mean you.
It is, sure you did. But it is the Democratic Party and the candidates' responsibility to win the hearts and the minds of the voters. It is not our job to blindly fall in line. That's what the other side does. That's what we accuse them of. So when I hear blue no matter who and I'd vote for a dead guy, I would not. I'm not going to do that. I certainly understand what's at stake here. But this has many echoes of the 2016 campaign. And if the candidate is unacceptable and doesn't earn the votes, that's on the frickin' candidate. Don't blame it on the people that believed in something.
God, can we hold both competing thoughts in our head at the same time and like agree that they're probably both true? I don't vote for a single person that I think is perfect. I vote for a set of a set of policies
You're
on
more
a platform.
pragmatic than a lot of people. A lot of people
Well,
say,
shouldn't we
"Who do I
be
wanna
making
have
the
a beer
pragmatic
with?"
argument? When is the responsibility to stop focusing on the rhetoric and what is easy to say but hard to live the results of?
Let me ask
That
this.
is an easy argument to
Maggie
make
Dawn,
now. It's hard
since-
to live with those results.
The president's actions and the events that he did and the speeches and the interviews he's done since that terrible debate, has he redeemed himself? Has he relieved any concerns that you may have had? Or do you think that he's relieved the general population's concerns?
It's a great question, Dom. Two things. First, I think that he's made a compelling case. Is it a definitive one? I don't know that it is. I don't know that he can ever definitively allay every concern that someone would have.
Right.
I think it's an unreasonable standard. But I come back to this simple reality that Republicans live by one set of rules and Democrats live by another. In 2016, well-meaning, good faith conservatives said Donald Trump is acceptable because he'll have a good team. We cannot spend any more time cannibalizing our own party and placing the future of our democracy and placing at risk the lives of largely people that look less like you two guys, more like me and more like people of color. We can't make that bet unless you're ready to go all in. Ultimately, I guess my answer in a really simple way is that President Joe Biden is going to make that decision. I think he needs to be told the truth. I think he needs to be getting the best information possible. There's been some reporting that he hasn't been. That needs to change. But at the end of the day, it's both the voters and the candidate, Mike.
Why again do you draw the distinction? Why aren't you talking?
Because this guy would vote for the tin can with me.
Oh yeah.
Hey, I listen. I went the other way before. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
I voted for Hillary.
Gold star.
He voted for Gary Johnson, for Christ's sake.
Big mistake.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. We are at Kimpali Taqueria, East Brady Street. We've got some people that have showed up at the party, including a MAGA hat wearing CJ. Boo! He got booed! Come back! More Devil's Advocates live at a bar.
like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio. Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmedicine.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite Slimming Black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com. Because we got bills too.
Gordy here from the Mad Radio Morning Show. When you text us at Civic Media, our text line is sponsored by Rocket Industrial in Madison, chosen by 80% of Fortune 500 manufacturers in the United States that want to package with less. RocketIndustrial.com.
Covering all the news that affects you with humor and a unique perspective. Mattinaire on Air with Jane Mattinaire. Weekdays 11 till noon on the talk you can't ignore. Mad Radio 92.7 WMDX and on the Civic Media app.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the Kampali Taqueria Tuesday party. We got a fine guest. She's Maggie Dawn, and we got a fine audience member. Drove all the way from Sun Prairie, our pal Chris. Chris, welcome to the party. Thanks for making the trip.
Hi, Chris. Hi. It's great to be here. And I just had to come on because I kind of disagree. I don't think this is like 2016 because I think Biden actually did things for us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Bernie laid out this agenda. I was a Bernie delegate. I was out for Bernie in 2020. I went with the Democratic Party because I know what a danger Trump is. But I was really, really impressed by Biden and the things that he did for people, particularly like, you know, raising, you know, children out of poverty and building the roads and, you know, getting broadband out. And I just think he's going to continue doing that. And I really hope people look at what he's done. People with speech impediments have a hard time. He is not an actor, but I don't want an actor for a president. I want a man that does stuff for us.
Let me interrupt you just for a moment, Chris. Bernie Sanders, AOC have both come out and effectively said, hey, we're on the Joe Biden bandwagon. And my thought is Bernie is strategic enough if he can help deliver some of his progressive base for Biden. And Biden needs as many surrogates, as many friends as he can possibly get, needs every single vote. But if they do help to deliver young progressives, well, Joe Biden has had a fairly progressive agenda, Chris. This could be a very strategic way for Bernie and AOC to help advance the progressive agenda. Do you agree?
I totally agree with that because that's how you get things into the platform. You know, you have to make agreements with people. And when you go to the convention, you can get things in the platform. And that's what we have to talk about. We should be talking about issues right now. And President Biden has a lot of really good plans. And the problem is we had this control of the government by, you know, the Republicans. I mean, we really have to get back to the democratic process. We really need a balance in our government again. And when we can do that, we can do amazing things. I'm really going to trust him. I trust Bernie. I follow Bernie. I follow AOC. I watch the squad. I read legislation. I actually, you know, people have to get involved. We need everybody. We're really going to need grassroots because we're not going to have the money. So we need everybody out there. We really do. So I just wanted to come on and say, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
So you wanted to come on and disagree with me?
Yes.
That's what you want to do, Chris. Thanks so much to you and Jerry Let's let Dom back on the air.
amazing.
Chris, thanks for
Chris.
joining us down here at Kampale.
Vote for Biden. Vote for Democrats. We're taking our democracy back.
It's amazing what Chris said was that policy matters and that content matters, right?
You would like to think it matters to people of reasonable
Conscience.
thought.
I
But
think-
I'm looking down the bar at CJ over here, and he's not looking at
Well, he's going to
policy platforms of the
Wait. I
RNC
can't
this
believe I'm
week.
going to do this on the radio. CJ isn't saying things because he believes them to be harmful. He believes them to be the right answer. He's incorrect, right? But CJ's not a bad faith guy. He's arguing in good faith. My problem is he's wrong and he won't look at information.
Well, I'll disagree on that, but let me ask you a question.
One of his sources, Dan O'Donnell, does not argue in good faith, and I hear him do
No,
it often.
Dan O'Donnell's a different beast.
We talked to Earl earlier
Mm-hmm.
today, and we were talking about the changes and when the Democratic Party, when Barack Obama was elected, and they fired up a lot of the community. People got out and voted and said, thought their life was going to change, and their lives didn't change, not to the degree they thought it would. Whatever the case may have been, and perhaps some folks are disheartened. And how do you think we overcome that thought that whatever I get up and vote, if I go to vote this way or vote that way, at the end of the day, nothing really changes for me. Attitude.
Well, that might be easy for you to say because you a dude. Like, things absolutely changed for me, right? Like, I woke up one day 2 years ago with fewer rights than I did the day before. That's a real thing for women. Infrastructural investments, things that actually help grow economies in states like Wisconsin that actually support family-sustaining middle-class jobs. That matters. There's something, I just saw one of the headlines off of NBC reporting that somewhere north of 58% of PhD-holding American economists agree that inflation would go up substantially if Trump is elected, and that they do not believe the same would be true if Joe Biden is elected. Facts matter. You can say up and down whatever you would like about inflation under Joe Biden. Here's the fact. It is far lower today than it would be had Donald Trump
Dems
beaten
fired
Joe
people
Biden.
up with Barack Obama, and they said your lives are going to change. And a lot of the folks, their lives didn't change. So you're going to come back again and say your life's going to change.
Who made that promise? I never heard Barack Obama stand up and tell people your life is going to be different in 4 years. I never heard Joe Biden say that either. If people have a misconception about what democracy is, here's the reality. It's an incremental system. It never moves as fast as we would like for those of us that advocate for greater health and wellness for the vast majority of people.
Dobbs came down pretty quick.
Yeah, it sure did.
Less so on the immunity.
Less so.
Weird.
I want it now. Thank you so much, Attorney Maggie Dawn. Thank you to our friend Earl Ingram. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Rich, for producing this fine Kampali Taqueria on the road from RNC MKE 2024. Maggie, tomorrow we're joining your fine broadcast. The Devil's Advocates join you at 3 o'clock. We're doing it from the Civic Media Broadcast Milwaukee headquarters for this fine week. We'll come to you tomorrow.
All right.
But
Thanks, guys.
you got to have some booze for us when we get there.
I'll bring mine. Thank
Check.
you, Maggie. Check.
Thank you all for listening. The wrap-up
Thank
of
you,
the
folks.
RNC with Todd Alba on Civic Media coming next. Thank you all for listening. Come on down. We'll be here for a while. Kampale Taqueria, East Brady Street in Milwaukee.